Sports, huge game for Torque, 3 for 4, 2 home runs, a walk, 4 runs, and 6 RBIs. His average up to 274 following his demotion. Chris Webber's team won the Celebrity Scramble at the Rocket Mortgage Classic Community Day last night. He and Matt Kuchar led the team to victory to snatch the title belt away from Tom Izzo. The gates are already open for today's free admission day at Detroit Golf Club to watch the practice rounds in the Pro-Am. Round number 1 begins tomorrow morning. And Michigan State football, they got a 5-star recruit, a long snapper. Jack Wills, the second highest rated snapper in the country, will join Jonathan Smith's 2025 class, who hails from Hudsonville High School in Michigan. From the Corewell Health Sports Desk, I'm Chris Villar. For more, go to 97.1 The Ticket and Odyssey.com.
Check the ticket text and the phones. Your reaction, who you want tonight for the Pistons. Do you want the best player, regardless of fit? John, I think you and I are on the same page. We want a shooter.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely want somebody that something that we haven't seen in some time, and that's a bona fide guy that can go out there and score and can be a spot shooter, can create his own shot, and there are very few of those guys to come by, especially with ones that you think will translate quickly from the college game or from the G League to the NBA.
Ryan in Rochester Hills, good morning. You're on 97.1.
Hey, guys. John, I agree with you. I mean, I think we need to look at somebody who can actually shoot the ball. Clearly, that's the biggest problem last year, well, among other things. But Dalton Connect, I think that's how you say his name. He shot, almost 40% from 3 last year. He's 23. He's not a young kid. He would come into the league and actually be like somewhat mature enough to help be part of the team. And I think you got to look at somebody like that. But, like you said with Arn Tellem, he probably will just draft Buzelis or whatever. But, I think you got to look at kids in Tennessee.
Yeah, Connect was a knockdown three-point shooter. He had the ball. He wanted the ball. He could finish at the rim and above the rim. The knock on him is that he's older, right? So in theory, this is a lower ceiling play. And I'd concede that, right? I don't think he has the highest ceiling in this draft. But in a draft that feels like there's not a lot of sure things, getting a guy who has a translatable skill that should be there on day one, and it's the thing this team has missed out on for years. Ultimately, I don't think he's going to be the Robin to Cade's Batman. And I think maybe that's the argument to take a swing on somebody else. But I need to start giving Cade some support. And if he's not his Batman, he could still be, one of the tools in the tool belt, and I think that helps.
Well, and I guess the argument then is Cade Batman? Or are you still looking for Batman and Cade's going to be Robin to whoever that Batman is?
Right.
So
I don't think there's a Batman in this draft, right?
No, there's not. And that's the thing. But it's really going to be a matter of different philosophies in regards to, do you want somebody that can come in and help you right away, that you're not going to have to develop as much? Now, all of these guys, there's going to be an adjustment period, and you hope that you can hit the ground running at some point. But I think Dalton Connect provides you, because he is 23, is a little bit more senior in regards to his experience. He had, a full, complement of years at Tennessee, and he comes in just more mature and probably better equipped to handle some of the stresses and pressure. But is his ceiling going to be what could possibly be for Buzelis?
Texter says Connect with multiple exclamation marks.
I mean, that's where I land at 5.
Same.
If he's available, and obviously I think the consensus is that Reed Sheppard's not going to be available at 5. If that's the case, then I am all on board with Dalton Connect.
And listen, we'll be talking about it tomorrow, whatever they do, whether they trade up, stay at 5, move back. But getting a shooter is at the top of your list, my list. That's Sheppard, that's Connect. If it's not one of those two, Cody Williams, we brought him up. Texter says he's the guy. That's a swing for the fences, can flat out play.
Yeah.
Again, needs to bulk up, lean.
Yeah.
But he has, he's a 5-star one-and-doner who there's something to work with there. He would be kind of a stretch wing player for this team.
Yeah.
He shot 41% from 3, low volume. But again, I can't be mad at that pick. I would understand.
You can't be mad that, is he not taking bad shots?
Right.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. So you say low volume, but it's also low volume because he was hurt at the beginning of the year, and then you watch what he was in the tournament. That's everything ramps up. They relied on Cody Williams to be that guy. and he stood up and was counted every single time near the end of that season.
Texter says the Pistons have a lot of bigs, but no rim protector. That's one of the biggest needs besides shooting.
Okay, well, I mean, you could trade up into the end of the first round to get Zach Edey if you want a rim protector.
Where do you think he goes?
In terms of city, I don't know.
No, but just like range of where he gets selected.
I don't know. I don't know that there's really much. I hate to say it because I think he's a good basketball player, a good college basketball player. But is there a need for him in the NBA? How big of a need? Sure,
Yeah,
you need a rim protector, but what's his
role on a?
I think
on a
somebody
team?
will end up taking him right around 25.
I said late 20s, mid
Yeah.
to late 20s, because yes, I think there's a role you could carve out for him, but I think the liability on defense, you're going to get switched. You're going to have to go sideline to sideline. You're going to have to move your feet. Do we feel like he's able to do that? Offensively, it's great that you can get a bucket in the low block. It's only worth 2 points, and that shot has kind of been phased out. So maybe there's a curve. He comes in as a curveball, right? He plays 6 minutes, and you start to throw some different things at a team. But I don't know that's a guy you're going to use a lottery or even a pick just outside the lottery on.
No, I don't think so. It's mid to late 20s. That's why I picked 25. It's kind of
Sure.
the no man's land.
Phone calls. Sheldon in Livonia, you're on 97.1.
I think if the Pistons could leave the draft, I don't care if they had to trade back or even grab this guy at number 5. His name is Devin Carter. He played at Providence.
Yeah.
He's a high-volume three-point shooter, and he reminds you of a Damian Lillard or even maybe a C.J. McCullough, but way more athletic. He plays tenacious defense. He rebounds. He's only 6'3", 6'4" with shoes, but he's a scorer. And I don't know what they're looking to do with Ivy. So I would really I want to leave the draft with Devin Carter. I don't care if he's a player we got or if we traded back, but that's my guy, Devin Carter. And the last thing I want to say, I think we do got rim protectors. I think it was the way Monty Williams changed up the way our big man played defense. He played just put your hands up around the rim instead of leaving your feet. And that's how Jalen Duren used to play. And last year with Monty Williams, he took a step back. So maybe with a new coach, our guys will be more active rim protecting.
And Sheldon, I think it's a really good phone call. And I think part of it, too, is your rim protectors get put in bad positions when it's Olay on the perimeter. So if the guards aren't doing the job on the perimeter, you're put in this impossible position. Do you step up and challenge and then someone gets behind you? Or you're put in that no man's land?
Yeah. Regarding Devin Carter,
yes.
I don't necessarily see him as a high lottery guy. And even though Pistons aren't picking number 1, I still think 5 is a high lottery. The question is going to be, can Trajan Langdon, if that's the direction he wants to go, what can he get in return for that number 5 pick, and how far back does he feel comfortable going where he could still get Devin Carter if that is their target? Because he's going to be there on the board at 5, so there's no risk of him going earlier.
Right.
But can you get him at 8, 9? Can you get him at 11 or 12? Because he's one of those guys in this draft that you could say is a true 3-and-D guy. He's a high-volume shooter. He shoots almost 38%, and he plays tenacious defense.
Yeah, this last year is a breakthrough year shooting the ball for him. Rebounds as a shorter guard, that just mentality, it's after a place in our heart when you play that way. That's a style of basketball that we appreciate in Detroit. 3-and-D guard, but because Cade's a bigger guard, you can get away with a smaller guard next to him as long as it complements him skill set wise.
And as long as somebody there plays defense.
And he does. So they would work together, and that's a fit, sure. Now, it's funny when you talk about where guys are going to go. I think this year's tough. I think people are throwing darts with these mock drafts. It's maybe why there's a chance they trade down. Because if you're thinking Carter should be there at 5, Connect should be there at 5, Cody Williams should be there at 5, maybe some other guys we haven't even brought up, they may have a pod of dudes that they're willing to take at 8, 9, 10, 11 and trade back. I think that's in play more than a trade up, as exciting as it would be to go grab a Reed Shepherd or something like that.
Yeah, and it's going to be, that's where you've got to hopefully rely on Trajan Langdon and his evaluation of what you're getting when you make the pick. If it's Devin Carter, what's the read on, is he a guy that's going to go 7 or 8? Is he a guy that's going to go 13, 14? And how important is it for you just to get your guy?
Right. See, I would love for them to trade up and take Shepherd at 3. I think that's where you would have to do it. That's where he's projected to go to the Rockets. Why would the Rockets do it, though? That's the thing. I mean, you'd have to entice them, and I don't think Ivy's enough to entice them. One thing you got to consider here is Ivy and Duren are going to be up for extensions after next year. That's when you would normally extend them. Are these guys max player? No way.
No.
I mean, Duren is certainly the more valuable, right?
I think so, yeah.
But what if they did that tonight? What if they traded Jalen Duren to move up 2 spots and take Shepherd? The one thing I love about Shepherd, and we got the one ticket text, yeah, he had a goose egg against Oakland, by the way. That did raise an eyebrow for me, but he's the best shooter in the draft. I believe he would play off Cade so well that you have what Trajan Langdon said in the foundation. I don't expect him to do it. I think the more enticing thing is what you just said, is trade down. I would love him to slide somewhere 7-8 and still be able to draft Cody Williams. To me, that would be the big win tonight.
This is a weirdly pivotal week, right? Because you got the Pistons with the draft, with the eve of free agency. The hockey draft's from Friday, and Yzerman's already starting to make some maneuvers, some puzzling moves, trying to make some sense of it, the breadcrumbs that have been laid out. When I get to that next, it's 97.1.
Hey, the summer driving season is fully upon us, and with the holiday next week, we know that the combination of increased traffic, big trucks, motorcyclists, and construction all contribute to the fact that summertime in Michigan, especially a holiday week, has more accidents than any other season of the year. If you're injured in an accident, injury attorney David Femininio and his team are ready to help you right now. And here's one of the best parts. David will never take a fee until he wins your case. You can speak to David personally right now by calling 855-65-CRASH, or you can go to his website, getdavidgetpaid.com. That's 855-65-CRASH, or on the web at getdavidgetpaid.com.
Get to AJ Hinch coming up at 9:35 this morning. Tigers playing today, 110 against the Phillies. John, Yzerman trades, plural, yesterday.
Yeah. Head scratchers.
Yeah, but little breadcrumbs. Got to be leading to something.
Well, you sure would think so, because with Waldman, you trade and you get a second round in return, and you're accumulating more draft picks, which we've seen. We call it the war chest.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take that same one to send Waldman away for a later compensation.
Future considerations.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And individually, they don't make a lot of sense. But which leads me to believe that they are breadcrumbs leading up to, and there may be a couple of more. Maybe there's some more happen today. Maybe even some more on Friday. Does it mean anything for Friday night? Does it mean something for free agency? Does it mean something like he's leading up to a big trade? It's leading up to something. I just don't have the hockey IQ, obviously, not even near where Yzerman is. And my question is this the chess game and not checkers? Is he playing 2 or 3 moves ahead and has a plan to add, whether it's a goalie, and if that's the case, is it a 1-year deal because you've got Kosa coming up in 2, or is it what does it lead to?
So Yzerman's a guy that gets the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not going to fight that. But I would bring up, if another general manager made this trade, we would really have an issue with it, because on surface, and I'm just going to stay at the surface because we don't know what's bubbling underneath, they gave up a second-round pick to move Jake Wallman. Wallman was playing on the top pair to start the season. He didn't end there. He was hurt, and I do wonder if something's going on behind the scenes there. Was he healthy enough to return? Is he still hurt and it's damaged goods, and they had to pay the freight to move him? But his contract wasn't objectionable. It's a reasonable contract. Yeah. It was a contract that Yzerman himself handed him in February of 23. So Wallman was seen as a win for Yzerman for a little bit, getting him from St. Louis, serviceable defenseman, some offensive upside. Even if he wasn't going to be a top pair guy, you felt like you're one of the 6 best defensemen on the team. If you needed to dump salary, you would think there would be other guys you would trade to dump salary, including Hull, who didn't play like at all last season, who makes about the same amount. So I know Hull can play the right side. There may be a logjam effect. To pay a second-round pick to get rid of a guy, I mean, is he radioactive? I think we might be missing something here.
Well, I don't know if we're missing something. So by itself, it feels like we're missing something. But I also don't know what the end game is. And I gotta believe that there's an end game. If there's not an end game, then we go back to the big questions of what the hell is he doing?
Right. Now he cleared the cap space. They cleared about $3 million in cap space. Is he going to use that not only to make sure Seider and Raymond get paid, but to make the team better? Does he allocate that to a defenseman, a forward, a goalie? We do need to see where this goes, what that cap space is used for, but I don't know that it's the best use of resources to use a second-round pick to get rid of $3 million. I mean, unless the market's really that tight, Steve gets the benefit of the doubt from a lot of people. That's one that raised an eyebrow for me. That was a puzzling move, and I hope it's a small piece of a larger puzzle, that he's cooking up something. Yeah. Because this is a really important offseason for the Red Wings. You fall just shy of the playoffs. You're faced with some mortality in terms of like where the roster's headed. You're not going to have cap space forever. Yeah. You've got young players. It's kind of now or never whether you're going to take the next step.
Well, and Yzerman said last Friday that there are increased expectations. He wouldn't say that the expectations are the playoffs, but if you just miss out by a point, the only way to take the next step is to actually be in the playoffs. And he doesn't want to be a team that makes it for 1 and then is out for 2. He wants it to be a regular thing so that they can continue to go a little bit further, and compete for a Stanley Cup. I get all that, but again, it gets back to these moves. I've got to believe that there is a much bigger picture that is being painted that we're not seeing.
We'll know in the next, week and a half here.
I would think at the least, yeah.
It's got to pay
at the
off.
earliest, yeah.
Well, if you created that space,
going to have to spend it.
It's intentional.
Yeah.
It's intentional. Again, unless there's something weird with Wallman where he was so radioactive that, and he seems like a good person.
Right,
So I don't
that
want to
didn't-
like cast any dispersions on his
There
his
weren't
character.
any reports that there was an issue in the locker room with Wallman.
No, and there were questions about how hurt was he at the end of the season, but he said as recently as like a month ago he wants to be a Red Wing for the rest of his career. So I truly don't understand where this came from, but that's on the eve of bigger moves to come.
Yes, hopefully.
Please. Please, John. Please. We'll get to AJ Hinch at 9:35. First, Tether with the news.
If you've driven through Detroit lately, I'm sure you've seen billboards that advertise different
Weed?
dispensaries. Yes. Different type of cannabis, weed, whatever you want to call it. But are there too many of these billboards? There's at least one Detroit City Councilwoman who seems to think so, and she is now asking Detroit's law department to draft an ordinance that would ban or restrict billboards advertising marijuana dispensaries. Now, there's nothing formal set in stone right at this point. There's nothing on the agenda, the city council agenda, to move forward with this. But apparently it's something that is being thought about, and perhaps we won't see as many. Of course, the owners of these dispensaries don't want that to happen, right?
Well,
Some
are
are
these
saying
billboards owned by the city, or are they privately owned? I mean, it's if
I think
they're
that-
going to sell them to who's going to pay.
right,
Correct.
exactly, yes, exactly.
So
And-
why limit your customer base?
Yeah, I don't get that either. If the dispensaries are the ones showing up with the checks to put
Exactly.
up there, didn't let them do it.
And they say, hey, we need these billboards. We have different dispensaries in different parts of the area, and we need to let people know that we're here and we're open, and they want it for business. It's helping them. So we'll see
Yeah.
if
we don't see the billboards, we're just going to see more planes with signs
exactly. Exactly.
circling
Yes.
the city.
Let's talk about Bally Sports. So in April, Bally Sports went dark when they, failed to reach that contract extension with Comcast. We all know what happened there. But did you hear what the Miami Marlins are doing?
No.
They're offering fans 2 months of free access to Bally Sports Plus streaming service.
Oh,
They're
going to
pay for it for them so that they can continue to watch baseball.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a nice gesture
So the
from
president
the Marlins.
of business operations for the Marlins says it's not summer without Marlins baseball, and we want to ensure that Marlins fans have access to watch our games, whether at, the stadium, at home, or on the go. And they say, with thanks to our ownership, we are proud to offer 2 months free of Bally Sports Plus to our fans to catch every pitch of Marlins baseball. So I went online. Of course, you have to make sure that you cancel, because if you don't cancel,
You'll get
you're-
charged.
Yes,
Yeah.
you will. It's going to be $20 a month if you don't cancel, but
Set the reminder on your phone.
that's all you got to do. Put it in
Yep.
your calendar. Kind of cool.
And they're a bad team. Like they're worse than the Tigers, yet they're going, we want our fans to at least have the option to watch along the way.
It's a nice gesture.
It's very nice.
Everyone should. I mean, we should be able to watch our teams.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
just,
the obvious
we
question
should
is,
be
like,
able to.
would the Tigers follow suit? I mean, I know people are going, I don't need to watch more of this baseball team, but it is a nice gesture from a team that says we want you to be able to
Yes.
watch.
Yep. Los Angeles Lakers head coach JJ Redick is flat out denying that he called a woman the N-word while he was a member of Duke's men's basketball team. So a day after he was introduced as the head coach of the Lakers, a woman jumped online. She's a Duke alum. She's an author. She's a speaker. And she dropped the allegation claiming, quote, I've only been called the N-word to my face by a white man once in my life, and it was on the campus of Duke University while I was doing work with the basketball team. She went on to say, and today he was named the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. What a world. So she didn't flat out name him, but she also made it known who he was. Now, Redick's camp is saying, hey, this is BS. This never happened. And is denying the whole thing. I mean, whether it's true or not, we may never know. The woman did follow up her quote hours later, kind of saying that she didn't deny it, saying that, yeah, it happened, but she said it was years ago. It was a very long time ago. There's always space to grow and evolve and become a better human being.
I mean, without any video, there's no way of like acting on this. You hope he didn't say it.
Right.
There's no way of knowing. But I don't think it's not like the Lakers are going to fire him or suspend him over this or anything like that. There's no way of knowing.
But if a lot of other people heard him say this, maybe this is something he might want to address and say, you know what? In my past, I made this mistake. I am learning from it. I don't know. It
Yeah.
may be
But
something
he
he
says
may
he didn't.
eventually,
Yeah.
he did. But what if other people come out and say, you know what? I was standing right next to her and I flat out heard this man say this to her face.
Well,
if
that's
more-
a different story. Then it becomes a storm.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if it is something he did, he might want to address it right now and try
Yep.
to move on from it if he
Right.
can. So Pabst Blue Ribbon is celebrating its 180th birthday this year. And to celebrate, they're releasing this massive 180 pack of beer. And it
Oh,
is huge.
man.
I've seen the displays in the grocery store. The company has only produced 2,500 of these triple-digit packages, and they went on sale earlier this week nationwide in different types of grocery stores. Each pack contains 2,160 ounces of beer, or slightly less than 17 gallons.
Game on. Let's go.
Summer party.
This is awesome.
Oh,
Which is basically what they're for. The company says that they are designed to be enjoyed responsibly by groups, and it's perfect for your next big summer party. And they're available for $99.
That's amazing, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, over the course of a summer, you put a pretty good dent in that.
Yeah, not bad. There's a new study that shows fantasy sports can be detrimental to your mental health.
Yep.
So the study warns that fantasy players, that it can become an obsession, and the more deeply you engage in the game, the more extreme the emotional experiences become. So the findings say that fantasy sports can deliver intense emotional highs alongside potentially troubling lows.
sounds like a skill issue. Just be good, win. You get all the highs and none of the lows. No, it is crazy how much it consumes sports fans. Fantasy football is this massive industry.
Yeah. How many teams did you have last year?
So I did those like the best ball ones, and
Right.
Like 100 of them.
I think we may have a problem.
Now, it also did find that the more experienced players, Jim,
Oh, no.
generally reported less anxiety than newcomers.
That's
So
right.
it sounds like you might have developed some coping mechanisms to handle,
Or I'm winning
these
too much.
uncertainties
Yes.
and disappointments in fantasy sports.
That's ridiculous. Thank you, Heather. Heather with the news. AJ Hinch next, 97.1. Dive into the best pool in history. We're talking Stadium Swim, located at Circa Resort. A lot of response on the ticket text. People have thoughts. Great journalist asking the hard questions. Tip of the cap to you guys. While another one says, that was embarrassing. No class.
No class. They're a team that has not won for a long time, and they haven't won, and by winning, I mean simply the low bar of being above 500 or competing for a wild card spot in now going on 4 years that AJ has been here. And there are always ways that we can phrase questions, and we kind of go back and we think, could ask that one a different way to get to the same point. But you still have to ask those questions.
I don't think it's at all out of line to ask about the job that A.J. Hinch has done in Detroit. And I have really defended him because Scott Harris hasn't outfitted this team with very much to work with. But I've tried to check my own blind spot with A.J. and start asking myself some deeper questions about why don't they play better fundamental baseball? And some of the examples that will be cited for player development, like it's just flavor of the month, who's ever hot lately. In totality, 4 seasons in, it's Riley Green, and that's it position player-wise. So I do wonder, is it the staff he's building? Is it his approach? Is it something about him? Are we missing something? We asked the question last Friday, is he getting a free pass? I know the afternoon show asked how much of it goes on AJ, that this team isn't winning more, that this team isn't doing the little things as well as they can or should. So we've got him on our show. Do you think you're doing a good job? A little awkward. That happens. That's part of doing these real conversations.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make it personal, but his job is the manager of the baseball team, and he is responsible for the overall direction of the baseball team. That's why I asked it.
But I don't think offense was taken by AJ.
No, I don't either.
You could
and
hear
listening
that
back
he was,
to it, I actually don't think it was as bad as I initially thought.
No. I mean, and it's fine if you bristle at a response or he bristles at a question, because we care about the Tigers.
Yep.
We care about the season. We don't want to lose a season, and it feels like this one has been lost amongst so many others that have been lost.
Texter says tact is what Cookies forgot in his EV this morning. Tact is described as a keen sense of what to do in order to maintain good relationship with others or to avoid offense. We can blame Dan Campbell for creating this monster. Say it, signed Mike.
Yes, he was.
Well, Campbell wanted me to be more direct. I was direct with AJ, and I get different people. I think he was caught off guard by how direct the question was. But it's not like there's any ill will moving forward. So that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
And you're right. Sometimes we hit touchy subjects. Again, sports are passionate. There's emotions involved. That's one of the first things we asked him, is that fiery side that we don't see publicly. We've been told it exists privately. That's maybe tapping into a very thin sliver of it right there.
Yeah, and he joked a little bit about, yes, you're not allowed in the coach's office after the game because that's where he does get a chance to vent. And we used to do that in the locker room. We used to have, I can't remember if it was 10 minutes or 15 minutes after the final whistle for us to be able to get back in the locker room, coaches to talk to the team, because we didn't have the whole, post-game pep talk that was going to be recorded and broadcast on social media. But there's a cooling off period where you get a chance to sit down, cool off after the game, and talk to your teammates, voice any concerns, any displeasures, any celebrations, and gather yourself before you do go talk to the media.
Scott Harris, we played some audio earlier in the show for people who missed it. You can go back, Odyssey Rewind. Scott Harris talked about the lack of moves from the offseason. He was on the podcast with Benetti and Dan Dickerson. We can play just that clip for people. We had a more in-depth discussion if you go back and use the rewind. But this was Scott Harris defending what I would call the indefensible, but defending his offseason and why they didn't make more moves. John, do you buy it? You know where I'm at on it.
Well, I'll give him this. He is doubling down, tripling down, sticking to his plan. And all we can do is that was hilarious. Is hope that the plan works. For those on Twitch who got a chance to see it, Gator was pulling his mic around, and in doing so, it also twisted Heather's mic in it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You all right?
It's fine.
Black Eye won't show until
Face?
tomorrow. Don't worry.
Goodness.
Did you get hit in the face or something?
Oh, I moved out of the way, so I wouldn't be hit. I
She
could have
avoided,
been
yes.
hit in the
I'm
face.
really sorry.
She went full Matrix.
Slow-mo.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But John,
Yeah, you wouldn't have known.
Harris says those would have been mistakes.
Well,
I don't know that any of the guys that were discussed
I don't know that they would have been mistakes, but
Blake
I also
Snell would
don't
have
know.
been a mistake.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fair. Our show didn't discuss Blake Snell. We talked
This show,
about
10-2 did.
Okay.
10-2 regrets it.
I know. I've heard you talk about that. But like whether it's Bellinger or Martinez or Chapman or the Arise trade, like those guys wouldn't have been mistakes. They would have helped this team, and I'm not really sure who they'd be blocking on June 26th right now.
But we also don't know if the opportunity had presented itself, let's just say to JD Martinez, would he have even wanted to come to Detroit? Is he
Don't
at the
know.
point in his career? We don't know the answer to that question. Maybe it's yes, maybe it's no.
But
Maybe
that wasn't
was
Harris's
it,
argument. His argument was it
I
would have been a
understand
mistake.
that. I'm now looking at it from the perspective of some
Okay.
of those guys. Maybe they wanted to go to a team that was ready to compete for a playoff spot or a World Series.
Yeah.
It's not the Tigers.
No, it is not. All right, Doug Gator, what's coming up?
We're going to announce whatever massive move Steve Eisenman has
Oh!
pending.
Must listen.
Assuming that there is one in the next 2 hours and 40 minutes leading into Tiger baseball.
That's right.
Huge move
2
coming,
hours
right?
and 40 minutes of a
Right?
4-hour show.
Tiger baseball, baby. Day games.
Gotta be a huge
Yeah, it's coming at 2:45.
Any second now, Doug. You guys will have
I'm
it.
waiting. TikTok. Let's go.
They're next. 97.1.
What we are speculating on is that today is going to be a news-filled day. Or maybe tomorrow. Or maybe Friday. Or
Maybe
soon,
Friday or
soon,
Saturday.
right, Stevie?
Maybe, free agencies next week. probably more there. Who knows?
So this curious moves yesterday by Steve Eisenman, and we'll do NBA draft today because it's tonight. We got some Tiger stuff to get to. So it's going to be a busy day. We'll mix in some fun. But Gator, the moves yesterday that really caught our attention is the 2 Red Wing trades. They acquire a second-round pick, and it's not a Niskanen, it's a Kiskanen.
Why?
You know what's
Why?
funny?
Why?
The name Kiskanen reminds me of the name Niskanen, and the
What are you
name
doing?
Niskanen.
What are you doing?
Here's a great story and true story that we just found out. We learned a lesson that day. Okay, Duggan Scott and Kang, we learned a lesson about fake Twitter accounts. It was the start of NHL free agency. The Red Wings had done nothing. And a fake account that looked like Pierre LeBrun tweeted out that the Red Wings had signed defenseman Matt Niskanen.
I don't even know how we would have seen that. Like, why does it even come up on our
Algorithms?
But at the time, I don't even think they were just throwing stuff out there. Like, it was
Clearly they were.
No, but somebody had retweeted it.
Yeah.
So somebody was following fake Pierre LeBrun. And then because we're following that somebody, we see it on our timeline. And look, I'm following a sword for this one. I'm the one that read it.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
And got all excited about it.
We and I should have also been tapped the brakes here, and we learned a lesson. So what's funny is walking out of the studio this morning, Jim Costa let us know that he was an intern on our show that day happened. The day that happened. I did not remember that was during his internship. And let's just say lessons were learned that day.
Listen, Jim learned a valuable lesson as an intern.
And quite frankly, that's why it happened. A teaching moment. That's why we screwed it up completely and embarrassed ourselves. It was all part of the greater good of helping along a young Jim Costa. Do you think anyone's buying it? Do you think anyone's buying that?
No. I'm gonna buy that.
No.
But it's true that Jim was the intern, I guess.
So anyway, Kiskanen comes to Detroit, but that's not the move. The move is then they turn around and send the second-round pick and Jake Wallman to San Jose for future considerations. The NHL had eliminated the future considerations deals, so this is kind of weird. But I guess there are some provisions to allow for future considerations deals, and so I don't know if that means the future considerations are known to the league, but not known to anybody else. You can't trade something for nothing. You can't just give away players and picks for nothing. Which, I mean, the Red Wings can say we wanted the cap space, so we traded Wallman and the contract, and to take the contract, we gave up a second-round pick. This was a good player for the Wings when healthy, and you know, I mean, it's a weird deal because it just so much foreshadows the desperate need for that cap space to make a big move, right?
Yep.
So what's the big move? What's the big move? What's the big move?
I don't know what the big move is. I'm excited. More excited now than I was. I mean, last night it was just kind of like, what?
Mm-hmm.
When you find the news out, when you hear about the trade, I'm like, does this make any sense? What the hell is future considerations? And then get the press release from the Red Wings detailing the Kiskanen and second round pick part of the trade and that whole thing. And, you know, it's starting to take a little bit more shape. And now there's even more cap space here. Because we talked briefly yesterday about what it is. Red Wings had, going into yesterday, was like $29 million in cap space.
Yep.
And then this trade happens. So that's like $32 million in cap space now.
Pushing 33.
So let's call it 33. Why not? Make it round up the number. You're going to re-sign Raymond and Seider for probably a combined $15 million. $7.5 million a year, probably. Because it's the first contract, they're the big contract they're going to get.
I'll take it.
I think that's probably appropriate, between 7 and 8. So you lop off that still leaves you with $17 million, $18 million. Now, you're going to have to sign somebody of your own free agents, I would imagine. I mean, there's also the Veleno part. Veleno probably costs you a couple million if you want to bring him back, but it's not going to break the bank with Joe Veleno. So, okay, knock it down. Now you've got $15 million to spend?
Mm-hmm.
Still a lot of money.
Yep.
That's two pretty good players you can get, or it's one monster player and then probably bringing back someone like Gostisbehere.
Yep. So at this point, we await the next. I understand the concerns. The concerns are legitimate. Like, what the hell did they just do? But it foreshadows a bigger move. So you sit tight. Something has to be coming, right? Something is on the horizon. What it is, we will wildly and irresponsibly speculate. Believe me.
We'll gladly spend his money.
Yeah. But what is it?
Well, obviously, it could be free agent, could be a trade coming. Trade would be harder for me to think right now, just because they're already giving up assets here. They're going to have to give up more assets in a trade, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the route they want to go? It doesn't sound like a Steve Eisman route.
The thing about a trade, though, is a trade could include another contract. So if they get a big, like Mitch Marner, let's just start right there. Mitch Marner, there's rumors that he's available.
Oh, you went big.
Well, I mean,
okay.
There's rumors that he's available, right?
All right, yeah.
And so
wow.
If that's the deal, great. Then we're talking about, okay, they're going to want prospects, players back, and that, you don't use up. I think he has a $10 million deal. I have to look it up exactly what it is. But I think he's got a $10 million deal, and you're going to send some money back, so it's not going to take up $10 million of your own of your cap space. But let me see exactly what his deal is. The point being, there's so much flexibility.
Well,
but here's the deal. Seriously, something better be brewing.
Well, yeah, without a doubt, because there's too much money in cap space not to make a substantial move, whether it's a goaltender, whether it's a top 6 forward, hopefully a top 3 forward, if that's the route you're going to go, because the Red Wings need to add a top-end talented player to this team to take them over the top of being a team that's just trying and knocking on the door of being that playoff team and was a point away from being it last year to being a playoff team. And write it down. They're a playoff team. But one guy could do that. Absolutely.
248-539-9797. Phone calls, feedback. Red Wing fans, how do you characterize your feelings right now? It's a question we asked on Twitter. We have got a bunch of responses to it. We gave you 4 choices. Go vote. If you want to comment. We do want to talk to you. Are we on the brink of something big? If so, what do you suspect it is? Are you scared that this is all about just kind of bringing back their own guys? They move Wallman, they're signing Gostisbehere and Kane, and they're 2 own. I don't know, man. It's got to be something big, right? Has to be.
I mean, I don't think it's just, re-sign Raymond Seider, bring back Gostisbehere, and now we have enough money to bring back Patrick Kane. I don't think that's it.
I don't either. 248-539-9797.
Because that would still leave a lot of money left.
It should. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Sarah Chevrolet in Sterling Heights wants you to save your cash for summer with 0 down deals all month long. Right now, pay no money down and lease a new Chevy Trailblazer at $265 a month or an Equinox at just $299 a month. These are both LS front-wheel drive, and they're 36-month leases with $0 down. Unlock the savings with their GM employee discount and a lease in your household. Don't forget, Sarah Chevrolet in Sterling Heights is your #1 volume Chevy dealer in Michigan. Sarah Chevrolet Sterling Heights, where they guarantee the lowest price or it's free. Call 87-SAY-SARAH or go to saysarah.com. Together, let's drive. Doug Harsh, Scott Anderson, 97 The Ticket. All right, so the Twitter poll is as follows, and we love your votes and your comments. At Doug and Gator 971. Interesting move by the Wings, trading Jake Wallman and a second-round pick for future consideration. Seems expensive to attach a number 2 to Wallman to create cap space, but rumors are now running rampant that Stevie is about to make a big move. What would best characterize your feelings today? Here are your 4 choices. Excited, scared, curious, or disappointed. Gator, what do you think is leading this Twitter vote? Or have you looked? You probably have. Have you
No,
looked?
I haven't looked.
Oh, okay, good.
We got scared.
Excited, scared, curious, disappointed.
I'm trying to think what I would say. I would say I'm curious because I don't know. Nobody knows. Steve Eisman keeps everything right
My
here.
God, yeah, it's a vault.
Nobody knows.
Nope.
It's like Scott Harris, really. You know, they're kind of practicing the same thing. Nobody wants anybody to know what they're doing.
I think Eiserman is like is putting out a master class of giving no information.
Yeah.
And by the way, I've been told that's the way he operates.
Yeah.
He's you walk into his office, the door gets closed, the information stays there, or you get executed. Like you do not like it is what it is. Like Eiserman, it's airtight. Curious has 60.3% of the vote. Excited has 22.4%.
Yeah, I would see those as being the top 2. Sure.
Disappointed has 10%. Scared has 7.3%.
What are you scared of? I'm not arguing. I'm curious.
Well,
as to,
I'll give you
again
here's-
curious.
Yeah.
Why would somebody be scared?
Here's somebody tweeted. This is from C. John. I'm scared because I'm losing faith in Stevie making moves. Yep.
So that goes with the other one, which is disappointed. And I would understand it if you're a big Jake Wallman fan,
And
I am. But I believe in Steve Yzerman. So I have to think there's something big coming around the corner here.
My belief in Steve Yzerman is dwindling. However, it's not gone. But it isn't what it once was. And what it has nothing to do with where Steve Yzerman played. It has everything to do with if it were GM X.
If
it were GMX.
Look, that's a standard. That guy's just average.
But if it were GMX, who came from a team that had built a team that won a Stanley Cup, I would have faith in that guy. His name and his history as a player means very little to me in terms of evaluating the job that he has done. But I have to admit, I'm losing some of the belief. But I still, right now, if you say, is he going to get it done or not? Is he going to build this team? Is he taking him to a better place? I think a lot is dependent on what's about to happen. Because it doesn't feel like it's something small.
No, but I mean,
it better not be.
I don't think we need to turn this into a whole Steve Yzerman topic about. I mean, I suppose you can turn it about believing, but
you know what I don't want? I don't want the hockey version of Mark Canha.
100% agree with that. No, and that's no disrespect to Mark Canha.
Mark Canha can help you win.
He's a professional player
on a good team.
And
he can
on
play
a good team, he's a nice piece because he does what he's told. Gets on base, hits a little bit, can play in the field, has a little bit of versatility. He's a guy. Is he a glue guy? He might be even a glue guy, but he's not a star player.
He's not a player that makes you better night in, night out. You win a bunch of games because of him.
Which is a nice way to put it in baseball terms. But let's just go ahead and flat out say it in the hockey terms. Do you want another David Perron? Do you want another Andrew Kapp?
No.
Because that's what that would be. That's the hockey equivalent, which they've already gone that route.
Yep.
And Perron's a free agent, not likely to come back. Now, Kapp is signed to a contract. He's got to be better.
248-539-9797. Sean, you're on 97 The Ticket. What's up, Sean?
Doug, I'll see your Mitch Marner and raise you an even bigger superstar.
Let's go. Let's go.
There's a GM out there that I think Stevie Y is pretty familiar with that has a superstar that's being overshadowed with an expiring contract and would probably like to go be the absolute star somewhere else. And I believe there's some cap space issues going on with the team. And he just disappointed a little bit in the Stanley Cup Finals. That guy would be Leon Draisaitl. How about that? Right?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about him yesterday, and we both got a little fired up and had to contain it because it's like, well, is this even a realistic possibility? But for some of the reasons you laid out there, Sean, I don't see why it isn't a possibility. Is it realistic? I'm not sure, but it's a possibility because of everything you rattle off there. I mean, yes, there's a relationship. Yzerman, Ken Holland, without a doubt. Yes, he is overshadowed there because of Connor McDavid. He's a fantastic player, but he also didn't show up in the finals. He was there in the playoffs, but not in the finals. He didn't score in the last 10 games he played. He didn't even score a goal. But there's no question that Leon Draisaitl is a star. He's a star.
Right, but the fans are a little disappointed, I think, in Edmonton that he didn't show up. So now's the time if you're going to trade him, I would think. But all this stuff makes me very hesitant now because I just look at the Lions, right? They're sitting on a mountain of cap space, and they've done nothing. So sometimes it's hard to read these tea leaves properly and think that this big move's coming, right? I mean, I thought it was going to come from the Lions, too. Hasn't. Stevie Y is even more conservative, I would say, right? So
here's the thing, Sean.
Right.
You brought up something that we can actually talk about, and in legitimate terms. There's a report out of Edmonton today in The Athletic that Edmonton, there's no way they're letting him get to free agency. They're either going to re-sign him or they're going to look to deal him, but they're not going to let him play on an expiring contract and have him walk for nothing. Which means, for the first time, probably realistically, there is accessibility to Leon Draisaitl. And people say all the time, we get texts and all that, they need to get somebody like Sergei Bobrovsky. Awesome. You need to get one of the best goalies in the league. Where's the accessibility to that? Because
teams aren't getting rid of it.
A third-round pick and, Oli Mata for, Bobrovsky isn't happening. They're not, making it to the open market. You basically have to draft and develop that guy or make a monster move to get him. And to make a monster move to get him, you give up all the things that make you a decent hockey team, an average to decent hockey team right now. So, but what there is now is accessibility to Leon Draisaitl, one of the best players in the NHL, because of the situation in Edmonton.
We would perceive it to be accessibility.
Yes. Is there accessibility for Detroit? That's the question. Because Detroit's not going to want to give up Raymond or Seider. And if you're Edmonton, you're probably asking for Raymond or Seider. And I don't think they're asking for Detroit's wealth of prospects because they're trying to win now. So I don't know that the fit can be had. But then again, you don't have to blow away them. You just have to, if they are not going to lose them to free agency and are actively looking to make a move, you just have to have the best offer. You just have to have the best offer to get it done. So can they put that together? I'm not sure there's a fit there. But you make the call. You absolutely make the call and start talking.
Yeah, you make the call and start talking without question, whether it's Draisaitl or Marner or any other high-valued player that you can find that you think might be available on a trade market. There's always the free agent market, and there's some really good players in the free agent market this year. Are they going to be a player? I would, as much as I love the idea of adding a Draisaitl or a Marner, the cost of getting either of those players, not the monetary cost, but the cost of the return. The return you're going to have to give them with draft picks and players, I think might be too big.
It might be, but you make the call.
Yeah, I make the call, but
there's accessibility for someone for Marner and Draisaitl. And here's the other thing you got to remember: if those guys do get moved, I mean, this is supply and demand. Those guys are fed into the supply, which means somebody else, maybe a Jake Gensel. You get for a price. It becomes that team checks a box. A team checks a box by making that big move, and you can dip into the supply. Well, those teams, aren't going after Gensel now. As an example of how this could benefit the Wings, 248-539-9797. Let's go to Bob in Royal Oak. You're on 97. Want to take it? Hi, Bob.
Hey, Doug.
What's up?
Gator, I want to ask you a question. What's curious about me, I don't understand, is they were trying to free up cap space. Why didn't they trade Sherratt? Because isn't he on the downfall with the Red Wings as it is? And so he has a bigger contract than Wallman?
Okay, think about this. If you're moving Sherratt and you had to attach a second-round pick to Wallman, would you have to attach a first-round pick to get somebody to take Ben Sherratt's contract?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I think you might be off.
Why would you have to? I mean,
why would anybody want Sherratt?
Well, I understand. Why would anybody want Wallman though?
Well,
they took
Wallman actually had, I mean, they did, and Wallman
somebody
has
did want Wallman, and I would imagine that
more
nobody
value
would
than
want.
Sherratt, probably.
Nobody would want Sherratt.
That's what I'm saying. That to me would be in a better trade. I understand it wouldn't, but this one here has got me puzzled because, like you said, they gave up a second round plus Wallman, and you got nothing in return. Nothing.
Well, they got something in return. They got Kiskinen, who's the Finnish player. He's 18 years old.
Well, that was in a different deal, right?
Well,
that was with the Predators, but
but it's a deal to acquire a second round pick that they end up doing, right?
Yeah. So look, man, I got it. I love that you would have preferred that deal, but that's basically walking into a car dealership. They're saying, here's the price of the car. And you're going, I don't want it for that price. I want it for about half that. They're going to say no. You want to trade a worse player and attach the same second round pick? If you could get that done, great. I find it hard to believe that Steve Yzerman would choose to trade a better player when he could have got rid of a worse player and freed up more money.
There's two reasons why the move is made. One is to free up the money. The other is to free up the spot.
Well, they did need to free up a spot.
They needed to free up a spot because they got Evans, who's going to play the whole season, and then they have to bring up Johansson as well. So that's why.
Things appear to be afoot down at LCA with the Red Wings on the brink of the draft. There's also an NBA draft. We've got an NBA question out there. If you want to answer it on Twitter, at DuncanGator971. It's basically, who do you want most at number 5? Tonight, you'll be happy if, with the 5th pick, the Detroit Pistons select. Tell us. We'll read some of your answers on the air here on Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket.
Depending on what we do.
Yep, that is Steve Eisenman last week talking about Jake Wallman's role moving forward.
Need to pay closer attention. Was that was foreshadowing, Doug?
That was foreshadowing.
And
look, we're sitting here pretty clearly anticipating a pretty big move next. A pretty big move next. If they've cashed in Jake Wallman and a second-round pick for nothing, it tells me that the return, if you think of it, Wallman and a second-round pick being traded for Jake Gensel, would you say that was a good trade? Because that's what this may be when it's all said and done. Here's one from James in Toledo. The Wallman trade is a precursor to Eisenman signing Stamkos. There's some updates that he's still talking and may not make it to the market, but
interesting. Obviously, they have a history together, and Stamkos is still a point-a-game guy, but much older.
Unnamed texter, Stevie needs to get this offseason right. Well, I don't think anybody would argue that. I don't think anybody would argue that. Let's go to Kevin and Macomb. You're on 97.1 The Ticket. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm going to be a little more realistic. That guy who presented Draisaitl, it sounds great, but that's like NHL 2021 type of trade because the Oilers are never letting Draisaitl go. I know he didn't get any goals in the final, but it's just his presence out there that creates matchups.
They're going to have a hard time, though. Just thinking, I mean, not to cut you off here, Keith, Kevin will give you your time, but they're going to have a hard time matching up a salary with him to fit it within the cap because of all the other high-priced players they have.
No, I get what you're saying. I just feel like if they lose him, then they're not a Stanley Cup winning team because it's just McDavid and him, and they just separate themselves from everyone else in the NHL. But I don't want Marner. I think he's just – I mean, what has he done in the playoffs, in my opinion? I think more realistic is I personally would like them to go after Jacob Chikrin or the goalie from Nashville, that's Saros, because, I mean, we do need forwards, but I think we need defensemen and a goalie more so than that right now. We're not winning it all next year. I don't think Chikrin is that old. I know Saros is like 29. I don't know. I think those would be more realistic to get. Stamkos is just. I think he's too old.
Here's the update, Kevin, on Chikrin. This is from the Ottawa Citizen reporting that the club is trying to determine what the market looks like for defenseman Jacob Chikrin, who has 1 year left on a $4.6 million deal. League executives say the Senators are seeking a first and second round pick or a high-end prospect in exchange for Chikrin. The indications are Florida, LA, Detroit, and Chicago are amongst the teams that have shown interest. So that could be the move. It could be the move. Now, here's what I would imagine Eisenman. I mean, maybe he gives up a first-round pick. They do have prospects. I mean, they have plenty of prospects to offer up.
They do,
yep.
And I don't know how I feel about giving up the first-round pick, but I mean, I don't know. Chikrin's got a lot of potential. He obviously hasn't shown it all, but it's I don't know. It's hard to find like just defensemen or any other good players outside of the draft because you got to trade for them. They're not going to usually be in free agency.
Yeah, so, I just think if they're going to, I don't know if they're going to go after defensemen at this point. They had a surplus of defensemen. That's why they had to trade Wallman.
Unless you're trading a defenseman.
Yeah.
That
exactly.
You know, so it's a 1-for-1 swap.
Chikrin was also minus 30 last year.
248-539-9797. Jack, you're next on 97.1 The Ticket. What's up, Jack?
Hey, good morning, guys.
How are we doing?
Hey, we could go into a lot of stuff on the current guys. Salary cap-wise, I'm not sure how much you can do free agency because they got so many guys under contract like Hall and Petrie that they got to get rid of.
They got plenty. They got plenty of cap space. They have the fourth most cap space in the NHL.
Well, that's before Sider and Raymond are signed.
That is true.
Anyway, my irritation was Andrew Gibson. The kid, I followed him a little bit. I'm not in Sault Ste. Marie, but, online. And he's had 2 very good years in a row. 6'4", kind of a mean streak, right shot defenseman, and we give him away. He just signed his entry-level contract. You don't even look at him for a year in Grand Rapids. You give him away for another Finnish forward that we know nothing about.
Well, I mean, I would imagine, Jack, that the Red Wings organization knows something about him.
I can't argue that, but right shot, big defenseman.
Yeah.
Right shot, big defenseman. And you drafted him at 42, and you don't even give him a year in Grand Rapids to see what he can do?
Well, they were trying. My guess is they liked the player they got, and they were trying to get a draft pick. This is all part of a bigger scheme, right? This is step one. Look, the Gibson thing, he was the Red Wings. He was outside their top 10 in terms of prospects. And Kiskinen was inside the Predators' top 10. Now, everybody's top 10 isn't created the same, so that's fair. But I don't think this is a massive downgrade in terms of level of prospect.
I don't know if it is or isn't. They're two totally different players. One's a forward, one's a defenseman, obviously. And if you look at the Red Wings organization, they have a plethora of defensive prospects. They have a ton of these guys that are coming up. I love the idea of having size. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yep.
But the upside with Kiskinen, he's 18. He's already 6'2" and 200 pounds. He's playing in the Finnish league there, and he played in the so he played with the men and, did okay. Wasn't anything special in terms of the point total he put up.
Well, that'll get people excited.
Well, but here's what would, okay, because when he played with all the bigger guys, the older guys, he had 10 points in 38 games, which isn't going to make you go crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then played with that same affiliate's under 20 squad, and in 8 games, he had 14 goals and 7 assists for 21 points. So clearly there's a skill level with this forward. There's no doubt that there's got to be skill there. I don't know if it'll match up with Gibson. Maybe they'll rue the day that they made this trade. But I'm just saying there is a trade-off here.
Yep.
You're giving up something, maybe a position of strength that you have in the organization of defense for something that you desperately need, which is high skill level forwards.
Now, our guy there, I appreciate him paying attention to Sioux Greyhounds hockey and falling in love with the prospect. And it's always tough to say goodbye to a player that you really were excited about.
Well,
I can understand that.
Defenseman had 44 points in 68 games last year.
Yep.
58 penalty minutes, and he was plus 36.
248-539-9797. Phone calls, feedback, tons of it coming in. We also have the question, who do you most want tonight? NBA draft, man, we're at a pivot point for our organizations right now. A lot of potential to change the direction. Maybe not in the draft, but these off seasons for both the Red Wings and the Detroit Pistons. So our question was, who do you most want at number 5? Let's read some of these responses. Ted tweets us, Dalton Connect, good 3-and-D guy, would come in and already be the best three-point shooter we have. From Manian Devil on Twitter, Cody Williams, lengthy player, kind of a theoretical prospect. This is what we think he could be out of Colorado. From Turbo Boost and Flip a Coin in this draft at number 5. They could pick anyone and I'd be okay with it. Just have to wait and see how the player pans out. Okay.
There's a real safe approach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get what he's saying. I'm kind of in his. I don't have any real strong opinions other than if Reed Shepherd is there at 5 that I want to take him.
I've tried very hard to build up it's got to be this guy. I've tried very hard. I can't do it this year, and it's because of the draft. And look, Reed Shepherd's the guy. If he falls to 5, hallelujah. Ish. I mean, I'm not sure where he would go in a normal quality draft. He wouldn't go as high as he's projected to go at number 3. But if Houston trades out of that pick, it's probably because somebody's going after somebody else, and Reed Shepherd will be 1 pick away.
I think there's a few names, if I hear them called, I'll be like, okay, more so than others. There are certain players that I'm like, no, I don't want that guy. So I'm going to be watching with interest.
248-539-9797. We'll get to more of your Pistons feedback on this. A little bit later on, we'll talk some Tigers. It's Doug Karsch, Scott Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket.
These days, it's really hard to find reliable service. Let me tell you about a great local company that I've been working with, Precision Garage Door. Now, I had issues with my garage doors in the past. I would call Precision. They would come out and assess the problem and say, look, we can fix it. We can do this. We can do that. We can help to maintain it until you have to replace the doors. And I really like that about these guys. Jeff walked me through the entire option with all my options and the entire process. The service was stellar. Daryl and his team, they were easy to work with. Very professional. I love what they do with Precision. They're available weekends at no extra charge, which is awesome. Plus, they offer the industry's leading warranty. You want to schedule an appointment? Do it on your terms. You can schedule an appointment on their website at a time that makes sense for you. Call Precision Garage Door today at 1-800-DOOR-REPAIR or visit precisiondoormi.com and schedule that appointment.
Doug Hirsch, Scott Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Boy, things are afoot right now in Detroit sports. Steve Yzerman making a couple of trades yesterday that frees up some cap space. One came with a cost, a second-round pick attached to Jake Wallman to get San Jose to take the contract. Now the Red Wings are pushing $33 million in cap space, and yeah, it could 15, 16, 17 million to bring back their own unrestricted free agents in Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond. We'll see how much that costs. It's obviously something that they have war chested for, but it seems like there's more war chesting going on, and it also feels like if you're going to attach a second-round pick to a decent player to get a team just to take the contract, it's because you really want the cap space. Now, it isn't an astronomical amount of cap space, but it must be a necessary amount of cap space. But the question is, to do what? To do what? Feedback coming into the Carson Anderson inbox. Also, NBA draft tonight. A pivot point here for the Pistons organization. Maybe. I mean, look, I think it has more to do. It's their cap space having the most in the league that is really where you start to, change the direction of an organization more so than a draft pick in this draft. And really in this modern day, the NBA draft, unless you're picking like at the top and Victor Wembanyama's there, I'm not sure how much difference a lottery pick makes anymore. But if you get it right, at least right away, how much it makes. If you get it right, it can impact your organization. So it's an important night for the Pistons. And there was something else that was floated out there about trading a star. And I mean, we're talking about, we'll get to that at 11:05. 11:05. I mean, like I said, things are afoot.
Things are afoot.
Yep. 248-539-9797. Feedback coming into the Carson Anderson inbox. First about the Detroit Red Wings. From an unnamed texter, until proven otherwise, going forward, I'm out on Steve. I'm done with him. He hasn't done anything tangible. He's had plenty of time to make the postseason, and he failed.
Think about the team that he inherited and the draft picks that were made prior to him getting there. And then look at it objectively and see what do you think would be a realistic timeline of getting back to the playoffs. I thought they'd be a playoff team last year.
I did too.
And
well, you did. I thought they had. I mean, look, they were close.
I mean, they finished. They finished outside of it on a technicality.
Yep.
Right, because they had less regulation wins, whatever the hell that means. I mean, it's so stupid. But regardless, they fell just shy of what my expectation was. Now the expectation is absolutely you have to make the playoffs. And he's talking about he has to make them and be sustainable in doing it. They didn't. He wasn't done any favors by the selections that were made prior to him. When he took over this team, Anthony Mantha was one of the stars on the team. Anthony Mantha is like this close to being out of hockey right now. Okay, Yzerman made the right move to make the trade, and he was wheeling and dealing, doing a lot of things, all while rebuilding the system with his own draft classes. And we're just now starting to see the fruits of that labor, where Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond have graduated to being really good players and really dependable players, where maybe they're going to take the next step and be star players. And then maybe this next group of players coming in from his other draft classes, these guys are going to get their opportunities to be good players and hopefully, reach that star player level as well.
As I look at the 5 years under Yzerman, each year their point total's gone up. He says he's done because they had plenty of time to make the playoffs and they haven't, so he's out. The difference between them making the playoffs and not making the playoffs is 1 point. So that 1 point is why he's out on Steve Yzerman. Okay, I mean that's his prerogative. I will say this though. The clock is ticking.
I agree.
Next year has to be pretty damn tangible progress, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, Steve Yzerman doesn't get a complete pass. That's not how this works. And just because who he is, again, it goes back to the GM he was prior to coming to the Red Wings, a guy who built a Stanley Cup championship team, did it through drafts, did it through trades, and had some players that were already on the team that were pretty good to begin with, right?
Yep.
But he turns that into the team that was going to compete for Stanley Cups. He left, they win the Stanley Cup, and people will attribute a lot of the success to what he built, the foundation. Comes here, and I'm like you, I'm putting away my fandom of Steve Yzerman as the player and the guy I grew up watching and loving on the ice. He's a GM now, and he has made shrewd moves, and he has made a couple of clunker-type moves. But I think more so he's made the good moves. And I think he deserves the opportunity to show this. Now, is the hot seat on? Did you put it on level 1? Am I pressing that button just
You're
yet?
talking about the car analogy?
Yeah.
That you have 3 lines to determine how hot the seat is?
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3 is the hottest? You've got it on 1 right now?
I don't know if it's on 1, but I'm thinking about it. We'll see what happens in the off season.
Mine's on 1.
Well, I'll put it this way: if we don't see something substantial in the off season that makes me think like absolutely this team's going to make the playoffs, then boom, it goes to level 1. So I'm got my finger ready to go. It's like 60 degrees outside. It's not quite cold, but we'll see.
248-539-9797. Tony McComb says at the All-Star game, Dylan Larkin said playing on a line with Mitch Marner has been the highlight of his trip so far. Go get him, Stevie.
Going to cost a lot.
Yep, it is going to cost a lot, but I mean, I guess it depends how motivated Toronto is. There appears to be accessibility to the player, so you at least make the phone call. And I mean, look, teams are going to ask for Sider or Raymond. And you say no, but call back if there's anything else, and you wait to call. And if they don't call back and find a better offer, then great. I really want the Wings to make a huge move, but I just don't think anything is going to happen. That's from Jeff in a truck. Jeff, I ask you, why not? Why not? What are they war chesting for? Do you think they just moved Wallman to create space for Edmondson or Johansson? I don't think it's that valuable to give up a second-round pick.
I think that's part of it.
I think it is a part of it.
Yeah,
but
that's not the sole reason.
Yeah, but when he says he doesn't think there's a huge move coming, so what do you think he did this for? Just to give away a player? I truly think Lucas Raymond is going to be a top 10 player, and I hope he isn't traded. I don't imagine he will be. More coming in regarding who people want the Pistons to take. Topper29 says, I'm all in on Connect. From Schmarik. Trade the pick for assets. It worked for the Lions. Heck, it works for any team. Jesse Bernstein tweeted us, Dalton Connect or Reed Shepherd, but he won't be there at 5. I don't want a project. I want a player with a discernible skill. He can shoot, and the Pistons need that. From Don. Don writes in the best shooter in the draft, Shepherd. I mean, I think people should be ecstatic if Reed Shepherd actually drops to them. Paintman writes in, trade for a legitimate starter. For once, not a bucket of balls or a European prospect that can't find Detroit on a map. Let's say this from the real JC. This is a tweet from a listener. Since this is the worst draft in history, I say draft Bronny James and hold the Lakers hostage. If LeBron wants to play with his kid, it's going to cost 2 to 3 future first rounders. From Detroit, Dave, I want Cody Williams, enormous upside, very athletic. I prefer them swap 5 for Portland 7 and a salary dump for the 2 seconds and draft Cody Williams. From Besispt on Twitter. BSA, I want BSA, best shooter available. From B on Twitter, I want Shepherd. Tomo says a shooter. I honestly don't care who it is as long as they can shoot. 248-539-9797. Phone calls, feedback. Who do you want in the draft tonight? One of the questions we have out there for Piston fans. You can answer it on Twitter or you can call and tell us why you want a player. 248-539-9797. Just a reminder, the show is available to be streamed. A lot more people are doing that these days. Why don't you prepare yourself for that day you're outside of Detroit? Think you're leaving town today, and you find out that the Red Wings do make a monster move. And you're like, oh my God, what are they saying on the ticket? Get the Odyssey app. Download it for your mobile device today. AUDACY. Then you can listen to the show anywhere in the United States. Same thing on our website, 971theticket.com. You can stream with video. Twitch.tv. Search up 971theticket once you're there in the search bar at the top. Participate in the streaming chat. Good community of people there. YouTube.com as well. Search up 971theticket and you'll see the live stream. Myself, Gator, Paul behind the glass today running the show. Kenny answering phones. So you can check it out with video with Twitch and YouTube. It's Carson Anderson. We'll get to this. I mean, look, this is a former GM talking about a big trade Detroit could make, and the calls are coming in. We'll get to that today at 11:05 here on 97.1 The Ticket.
Brought to you by Wendy's. For the third year in a row, the Pistons are going to select number 5 in the NBA draft despite having the worst record, that is, unless they trade out. But new front office boss Trajan Langdon laid out what attributes he looks for in his ideal players for this team. Well, Detroit has worked out 7'2" center Donovan Klington out of UConn. Also, small forward Cody Williams from Colorado. That's according to ESPN. The majority of mocks link the Pistons with G League athlete Matas Buzelis. The Hawks will be on the clock at 8 o'clock from Brooklyn. A reminder, the 2 rounds are separate for the first time this year. Round 2 of the draft is tomorrow. The Pistons do have a pick then as well. A matinee to determine a series winner at Comerica Park. The Tigers could take 2 of 3 against the first-place Phillies if they can get it done. Jack Flaherty gets the nod. On the other side is former Tiger Spencer Turnbull, who admitted the end of his tenure with Detroit was a little rocky, and he may have some extra emotion during this game. Dan Dickerson's call is going to be right here on 97.1 at 1:10 p.m. And the gates are open at Detroit Golf Club for another free community day at the Rocket Mortgage Classic practice rounds and the Pro-Am. Parking is also complimentary as the tournament gets set to go for tomorrow morning. From the Corewell Health Sports Desk, I'm Chris Villar. For more, go to 97.1 The Ticket and Odyssey.com.
Okay, so look, I was thinking about that text we got late about dude that's out on Yzerman. And we've seen this play itself out before in Detroit. There are some parallels in terms of somebody whose resume was impressive that had ties to Detroit, that built a championship caliber team and then was asked to do it again, and it started to get uncomfortable. And Yzerman has built a championship caliber team. He just did it in another city. He comes to Detroit and he's being asked to do it again, build a second championship caliber team. And it's not easy, but it can be done. And that should be the expectation without question. But he doesn't get quite the benefit of the doubt that Joe Dumars got, and that ran out quickly. Joe Dumars also built a championship caliber team, but he did it in Detroit. And certainly that warranted an opportunity to build a second one. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. And I hated the way that ended because while Dumars wasn't a guy that enjoyed the spotlight, he's kind of been a ghost around here since.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because the way that he built that championship team was by unconventional means.
Yep.
And was really special.
Yep.
When you go back and you look at the moves that were made, it's amazing what he was able to do.
Yep.
Just really, really smart moves that paid off. And we had a run. We only got the one championship as fans out of that run. But my God, how many times was it? 5 straight appearances in the Eastern Conference Finals, whatever it was. It was a really nice team to watch.
248-539-9797. I'd like, from an unnamed texter, Holland not making Draisaitl is not moving Draisaitl. Stop dreaming. You don't fold on your aces right when you get to the final table. I mean, look, the only reason we bring it up is because Edmonton writers are writing about moving on from Draisaitl. I think that the name Draisaitl before was a fantasy for anybody in the league, but his contract is coming up. They don't want to lose him for nothing. And so it's speculated is that they might try and make a big move. Now they're in a win now place, and what the Red Wings have to offer is prospects. It almost feels like that would take a third team.
Well, I mean, if I'm the Edmonton Oilers and you're looking to trade, you're going to trade Draisaitl to the Red Wings, you're going to have to give me Mo Seider and more. Because the Oilers would have to take a look at themselves. Why do we fall short? Did they fall short because of defense? Is that a possibility?
Okay, this is why I mentioned a third team.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a third team with the type of players that Edmonton would want that wants to reload on prospects, where they get to just empty Detroit's prospect tank? They send the players Edmonton wants to Edmonton, and Edmonton says Draisaitl to Detroit.
Possibly.
I mean, look, that would be the creativity that would take to get this done, right? some team that's in a rebuild mode but has valuable vets that could make Edmonton better, say on the blue line, and so that, and they would give Detroit gives a first-round pick and all their draft picks up, and 3 or 4 prospects up, because we have the deepest and the number 1 ranked prospect system in the NHL right now here in Detroit. You send them to a team that's got what Edmonton wants, and then Edmonton gives up Draisaitl. I mean, it would take a unique circumstances, but look, there's accessibility. Apparently, look, I get that people don't think.
Look, neither one of us, you or I, we don't think this is going to happen.
Well, look, there was a story out of Edmonton yesterday that listed Detroit as a landing spot for one of the best players in the league. Do you want us to ignore that?
We could talk about it, but I don't think the probability is very high. But the question became, do the Red Wings need to make the call? And yeah, you got to make the call and see what the cost would be, where their head is at. And of course, their first offering to you is not going to be what you'd accept. Like, they'll give me Raymond Sider and to Casper and 2 first-round picks. And you're like, hey, that's not going to happen. But okay, I see where you're starting from. Let me let you know where we're at on this, and then you can decide if that's going to get done. But no, I don't think it'll happen. But you have to explore the option.
I think you call. But yeah, this is, if you want to know why it's getting talked about, it's because it's getting written about from Edmonton sources. From an unnamed texter, for you people saying trade for Draisaitl, what in the world would we give to have equal value? We have no one on this team that's remotely close to a top 5 player. Shake my head. Again, third team scenario. Third team scenario is what I would think would be the best way to find accessibility, because what the Wings have to offer, and we've said this a million times, but I'll say it again, what the Wings have to offer doesn't seem like what Edmonton would be looking for. So
Edmonton just got to the Stanley Cup Finals. They were 1 game away. They were a period and a half away from winning the Stanley Cup. They're that close. They likely don't want to trade Draisaitl. I don't think they want to. I think they want to take another run at it, because if you win a cup, that's all that matters. And they'll go through the season to have that chance. The better trade offers might come at the deadline as opposed to this offseason if you're going to move on from him. I don't know if they're going to move on from him. I mean, if you're Edmonton, it'd be really hard to do that. I mean, you've been trying so hard to win a cup, and you haven't done it. You failed every year with these two playing together, but this was the first time you got to the finals. Is this the first of many? Keep in mind, Steve Yzerman, how old was he when he won his first Stanley Cup in 1997?
He was getting up there.
Yeah, because he was drafted in 83 as an 18-year-old. Okay, so it was like 14 years in the league before he got his first Stanley Cup. McDavid's not that old, and neither is Draisaitl. So I could imagine it could still be kicking the can with these guys.
Okay, so this tweet, like as if there wasn't enough percolating today.
What we got?
Lynn Henning.
Oh, Tigers.
Tweets out, Jim Bowden saying today the Tigers are receiving overtures about Tarek Skubal. Tons of fans would shriek, but the trade package for Skubal would be of such size and necessity for the Tigers. They make the deal if there's an appropriate abundance, and it very well could be. Then he tweets after that, Tigers also make the Jack Flaherty deal if value is there, and absolutely should be. This is why you hire forward-thinking GMs to build not something that spins wheels and doesn't scare fans, but something that promises to be very good when being very good is about talent.
Well, I mean, I can't see them moving both of those pitchers. Could you?
Skubal
and Flaherty?
Skubal to Edmonton for Draisaitl.
That's the type that would work. You boosh. You nailed it.
Yep.
I mean, when it comes to the Tigers, and you're coming off a game like last night where Tarek Skubal tames one of the best lineups in all of baseball, holds them to 3 hits over 7 innings. I mean, the value is never higher. But you've got 2 pitchers you could deal if you wanted to. One is a free agent at the end of the year, and the other one is under your team control for the next couple of years. I don't think you move the one that's under control unless you are absolutely, positively blown away by the offer.
Here's what Lynn
Flaherty, but I have a hard time moving Skubal. I don't know how many. I mean, you'd have to really wow me with it.
Well, here's what he says. People ask him about that, and here's what Lynn Henning says: you trade for exactly that brand of player the kid on the cusp of everyday play who's all but guaranteed all-star, as well as another blue ribbon prospect or two. That's the deal. So you're talking about a move. You basically go to Baltimore.
That's the first thing that comes to mind, right?
People think Baltimore has just won the World Series and you raid their system.
Well, Baltimore lost one of their starting pitchers, right? So
they've actually lost two, but they've been replaced. I haven't looked at the update. Last week, they had one of the top ERAs and top whips of any staff in Major League Baseball. They lost a bullpen arm, but have replaced it just fine. So I don't know, man. I mean,
that's certainly the organization that has top guys.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't want to move Skubal. And this is, I mean, I know you're not supposed to fall in love with your own players.
Yeah, it's so funny. If we're doing this show in Edmonton, I don't want to move Draisaitl.
Well, we did the show several years ago when it came time with Fulmer, right? I don't want to trade Fulmer. When it becomes obvious, like, yeah, you don't want to trade Verlander, but you have to trade Verlander.
You don't get as much.
You're right, and that's the Flaherty situation. Skubal is, I mean,
it would have to be a Brinks truck.
What have you always said about baseball, Doug?
Horde pitching.
There it is.
Yep.
And they don't everything else beyond Skubal is you don't know. Like, do you believe? I desperately want to believe in Reese Olson that he's the guy. I don't yet, but I'm getting closer and closer every day because I was so skeptical to begin with. What's Casey Mize? Is he the first inning guy that he was the other night, or is he the guy that mowed him down over the next 3 innings? I mean, he was phenomenal after the first inning the other day, but I can't count on that. I mean, just because he's got the 1-1 pedigree, he hasn't performed to that level. Matt Manning's been a disaster at Toledo this year. Ty Madden's been even worse, one of the other prospect guys. I have a hard time thinking, let's trade away the best player on our team.
Here's what you got to get in return. This has to be James Shield for Fernando Tatis Jr. Right? It has to be that star quality player that you are sure of coming back to you. And probably some,
and
because
because
you're assuming some risk with any young player that they're going to make it. But if you can tell me you're getting the next Fernando Tatis Jr. and some, I mean, that's kind of what it would take. 248-539-9797. Doug Carr, Scott Anderson. Like I said, things are afoot today. Pistons, Red Wings, and Tigers, all with rumors percolating about what could be next. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket.
Having trouble finding a dealership that's open on Sundays? Look no further than Sarah Chevrolet Southfield. They're open every Sunday, not just for sales, but for service as well. And servicing that car, they've got loaner vehicles available to keep you on the move. And their technicians are very happy because they're not working in a hot box. They've got the air-conditioned environment, which helps the techs stay focused on your vehicle. Sarah Chevrolet Southfield has one of the largest selections of new vehicles in Southeast Michigan. They've got over 60 new demos available for sale that you can purchase a new vehicle for thousands less than employee pricing. If you don't have employee pricing, well, Sarah Chevrolet Southfield has you covered as well. All new 2024 Trax vehicles at employee pricing for all. They've got the best selection of used vehicles around, always giving you the most for your trade. So go see Cole and the entire team at Sarah Chevrolet Southfield, where unbeatable service meets exceptional selection. Located at 696 and Telegraph, open Saturdays just for you.
Coming up today at 11:30, we're going to have Gator play a game, 20 questions. See if we can figure out what musical group stayed in our hotel.
All right.
Gator's into music, a lot into music. I'll guarantee that it is a group you've heard of. But we will get to that coming up today at 11:30. All right, so the Leon Draisaitl stuff, which people love to say, shut up, quit talking about it. And I will tell you this. Got it. You don't think it's realistic. I would advise you, if you ever get a talk show, or if you ever do have your own show, and another town includes your city and your team as a possible trade destination for a star player, I would say you'd be advised to talk about it. I would just say I think it's wise. Little pro bono consultant work here for your future. The Athletic reporting that the Draisaitl, there is a contract. They're going to make him a contract offer, but this is what is being written by the Athletic. Draisaitl is entering the final season of his contract and will be eligible for an extension beginning Monday. The Oilers have long planned to offer him one and have felt optimistic that he'll sign it. The ball will soon be in Draisaitl's court. If he doesn't want to return, change could be afoot. Colleague Chris Johnston reported Tuesday, citing multiple league sources familiar with the Oilers' front office view of the situation, that the team isn't inclined to let Draisaitl play out the last season of his deal. The Oilers don't want to risk letting him walk to free agency next summer. It was a Bleacher Report story that said here are 4 teams that could get involved with Draisaitl. Detroit was mentioned. Now, they're going to want – we think it's a long shot because we don't know that Detroit – the assets Detroit bring to the trade table doesn't seem like it would be what Edmonton would want. And that's where you'd have to get creative with a third team that might have those assets that they want prospects. Detroit's got an abundance of prospects, so you offer those prospects to the third team. They give the players that Edmonton wants for Draisaitl, and Detroit gets Draisaitl. That seems like a more realistic way for it to happen, but I don't know that it doesn't seem likely. It really doesn't seem like.
I think the likeliest scenario is that where the Red Wings spend their money is going to be in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
I think where they can get a guy like a Jake Guentzel who's 28, makes all the sense in the world. They get a guy like that, as opposed to going out and giving up your assets, what you've built. They've built this team. Eisman has built this team, and he's just now starting to see the guys he drafted step into the Red Wing lineup. You don't want to give those guys up. So the free agent route makes sense. They've cleared up space, even more space with the Wallman trade. So if they want to be a player for Sam Reinhart, who scored 57 goals last year, they can. If they want to be a player for Jake Guentzel, who had a real nice season last year, he scored 40 goals in his season twice, they can. If they want to go after Jonathan Marchessault, who had 42 goals last year, they can.
Yeah. Yep.
And they can do more than just that, because there's a lot of money there. Yes, they have to re-sign Raymond and Seider, but they're still going to have $15 million to spend after that.
Regarding the Lynn Henning tweet, that Jim Bowden reporting today that the Tigers are receiving overtures for Tarek Skubal, and how Henning basically said it's got to be a ready-made all-star and a couple of other 1 or 2 other blue chip prospects that would make you even consider this. And I get it. Why you'd at least listen. You don't want to give up on Skubal. But here's the thing about a deal like that, is that it kicks the can of expectation down the road. And it's really up to Scott Harris to figure out, all right, with what we have in the organization, are we going to be able to get to the finish line? Because if not, it probably is wise to start over, no matter how freaking painful that is to hear right now. If he looks at what they have. Now, you can also force the issue a little bit. And forcing the issue includes getting more involved in free agency. Last offseason was a disappointment. He explained why they didn't do what they didn't do, and I suppose, it would make some sense. I didn't love the free agent class, kind of like this NBA draft.
Mm-hmm.
And the player I like the most has been terrible. So, but with that said, if you get a Skubal offer, you can't refuse. And I'm not, talking about the kind of offer where, I'm not going to go all Godfather here. I'm just saying.
Well, I'll throw a 1-for-1 trade at you.
All right.
that would not be offered, but it's a type of thing that you'd have to consider. If Baltimore says we desperately want the pitcher,
yep,
we'll give you Gunnar Henderson.
Well, I'd say, and what else? Just cause.
Well,
yeah.
Look both ways.
Yeah.
But that's the type of thing, right?
Yep. Feedback from Al. Why is it every time the Tigers have someone that's performing well, they always trade the asset away rather than build around that? They've always done this, and this is why they're always in the bottom of the league. They mismanage their stars all the time.
When have they done that? I'm not going to say it hasn't happened. I'm just let's go through the times that
we're talking about a young cornerstone player.
Yeah.
Or if they only traded veterans that they were going to lose most likely anyway. I mean, they traded away. They let Scherzer get to free agency.
Uh-huh.
But that was because they kind of had a budget.
Well, they made him an offer.
Yes.
They made him a good offer.
Yes.
Max bet on himself and turned into a much better offer in the offseason in free agency. But they made him a fair offer going into spring or after spring training. So what do you want to say? The prospects they gave up to get Miggy? No. What, Nick Castellanos? I wouldn't say that. I mean, there was the talk at the time that when Michael Fulmer was Rookie of the Year, it was great.
Done. I was in favor of that, but that was for completely different reasons that don't necessarily apply to Skubal. Although Skubal, one of the reasons why they got him so late was because he had, I believe, 2 arm events. It's when he was at the University of Seattle.
So you don't expect him another one.
What's that?
So you don't expect him more. No more arm events, please.
It's on the resume.
Well, if his mechanics are good, then you don't expect it. But that was another one. Fulmer was a guy that people said that they should, and they didn't trade him. So again, who are the guys going to complain about? Suarez or Paredes or Willy Adames? Are those the guys that rarely played here?
I don't think it's accurate that they've always done this.
No.
If we trade Skubal, I want 5 prospects and a name player or a first-round pick at least. You can't trade first-round picks yet, right?
No, you can't trade picks. And when you start talking about give me 5 prospects, I don't want 5 prospects because that means it's like a scattershot approach.
You want
give me the best you got.
3 sure things.
Yes. Give me your top 3 prospects.
Skubal has to be looking around thinking, I got to get out of here. Trade him and get a haul.
He hasn't acted that way.
Next text, I really hope this Skubal talk is real. Tigers can't make the same trade mistake with Skubal like they did with Verlander.
Well, they can't.
They're completely different.
Yeah, Verlander was at the end of a contract that had already paid him a ton of money, and it was on a team that they kind of had to break up. Skubal has yet to get his first big contract, which is why it makes him even more appealing.
He should fetch way more than Verlander did.
Which is why I would love to hear that the Tigers have agreed to a 6-year deal with Tarek Skubal.
I know.
Give him a 6-year extension. Give him the money.
To just explain the difference, an aging player at the end of a contract doesn't get what a young player under club control for 3 more seasons gets.
Yeah, 2.5 seasons.
Skubal is like a rocket ship just taking off. Verlander had some good years after that, without question. But it wasn't.
He had a phenomenal year after he got traded.
Yes, but it wasn't. It wasn't at the beginning. It'd be like trading Verlander in year 3, not Verlander in year what it was after they had him for 8-9 years, whatever it was. 248-539-9797. All right, a game of 10 questions, 20 questions coming up. See if Gator can narrow this down, and we will also get back to what's going on with the Red Wings. Some Tiger stuff next hour, including interesting interaction on the morning show between the manager and one of our hosts. About whether or not the manager is doing his job. Hear that in the noon hour here on 97.1 The Ticket. Doug Carr, Scott Anderson, 97.1 a ticket. Open lines 248-539-9797. Okay, Gator. I mentioned yesterday that we stayed in a hotel. We were in Indianapolis for a baseball tournament. It turned out that a pretty big band, I think a recognizable name for most people. But, I think I guarantee you've heard of them. Was staying in our hotel, and it created quite a buzz. So, Gator, I don't know. Do you think you'd do it in 10 questions, 20 questions? I said 20.
I don't know.
Let's see how many it takes you. Let's just go.
All right. First of all, was this a really, really, really nice hotel?
It was nice. I wouldn't call it really, really, really nice. It wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. But it was nice.
All right. What music genre are we talking about?
I would say R&B.
R&B. Okay. Well, this is not my wheelhouse, but interesting. What would you say, the most prominent decade that this band performed in? They're still performing now.
Yeah.
But what was their most prominent decade?
I would say probably late 80s into the 90s.
R&B, late 80s into the 90s. Okay. Is this a big band? Like, how many members in this band?
The band is kind of known for having 3 members.
Okay. Is it Belle Biv DeVoe?
It is not Belle Biv DeVoe. Okay. It's a great guess.
Is the band comprised of all females?
It is not.
Okay, so 3 men.
I didn't say 3 men.
No, but I'm going to infer that.
Are you familiar with Lady A? That's not all men or all women.
Yeah, you keep trying to throw me off the track.
Okay,
I'm going to
yeah.
stay with men.
Okay.
Is it Boys to Men?
It is Boys to Men.
Come on! Come on!
Okay, so here's the thing about it.
Come on!
I thought Boyz II Men had 4 members.
I wasn't sure if it was 3 or 4, but I just thought, okay, R&B, not Belle Biv DeVoe, which isn't really R&B, I guess, but yeah.
It's a trio comprised of baritone Nathan Morris, tenor Wanya Morris, and Sean Stockman during 2003.
That's what they are.
Used to be a quartet,
yes.
But they are a trio now. So when we found out, okay, it created quite a stir amongst the moms.
Yeah.
Some of the kids knew who Boyz II Men were. I knew who Boyz II Men were. I started singing songs, and then I realized, no, wait, that's Belle Biv DeVoe. Which is so funny that you guessed Belle Biv DeVoe.
Just started singing Poison?
Yeah. So, anyway, Boyz II Men was in our hotel. Now, what's funny also is that Sunday morning, I had to get up very early. And I walked out, and what did I see? I saw the tour bus parked right outside. And I'm like, okay, there's nobody there. It's really early. Boyz II Men is a bit of an older group. It's not like, we were there and it was Taylor Swift and the hotel would have been mobbed.
Right.
But I'm like, I got time. Do I actually hang out here? Am I going to be the one dude waiting for Boyz II Men to board their tour bus?
Really? What? To board their tour bus?
Is this what I'm supposed to do?
I think you may be lacking some of the specifics to get on that tour bus.
No, waiting for that. I'm not getting on. I'm waiting for them to walk out to board just to see them. Yeah. No, I'm not trying to get on the tour bus.
That's what you said.
I said I'm waiting for them to board their tour bus. Not me to board their tour bus. I'm waiting for them to board their.
Well, you need punctuation.
Fair enough. Yes. Well,
where's the comma?
Suffice it to say, I did not wait. I was like, I don't really care that much.
That's Boyz II Men.
But I was looking at the tour bus and I'm like, okay, if you're Boyz II Men, and you're probably singing the same songs you've been singing for 20 years. I don't know if they've come out with new material. Have they?
I don't know. I'm sure that every once in a while they'll tweak the set. Sure.
I feel like though this is probably pretty much a little bit of an older crowd. But Boyz II Men is, and I'm looking at the tour bus, and I could see like down the middle when I walked past. You could look through the front window.
It's gonna be a 40+ crowd, I would think.
And I'm kind of trying to figure out. All right, and I'm going. This is not an elite tour bus.
Oh,
it's a nice tour bus. It's a nice tour bus.
Nice tour bus, nice hotel, but this isn't like.
This might be the same tour bus they had back in the 90s.
We're not getting an MTV Cribs with us.
Yeah.
Do they still do MTV Cribs?
I don't think so. Is there still MTV? Anyway. So that's who it was. It was Boyz II Men.
Boyz II Men. So how did you know? Like, was word going? You heard?
Yeah, word spread, and then one of the moms said, "We're on the 12th floor. They're staying on the 12th floor."
Oh.
Yeah. The moms were all fired up. The dads were keeping an eye out. Guard your yard, fellas.
The dads were like, "Oh crap, let's check the hall pass. Are we in trouble?"
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny. So anyway, it wasn't like a band that would thrill you, but you got it.
I got it. I'm trying to think if I've ever. I don't think I've ever stayed at a hotel with a band or a musician that I knew of at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's funny because we went last year. We were driving to South Carolina in the summer, and we stopped in Charlotte, North Carolina after one day, and it turned out there was a concert there that that my wife and the kids and I would enjoy, and it was Sam Hunt, and I can't remember who else it was. Anyway, country artist Sam Hunt. So we went to the show. The next morning we got up, my wife and I, let's go get some exercise. I went out for a run walk, kind of deal. And we ran past the hotel next to us was really nice. And the tour buses were boarding. And we're like, oh, and it was really early. And I'm like, this is the Sam Hunt tour bus. And that was a nicer tour bus. Now we were in the hotel next to the hotel, but this time, Embassy Suites, man.
Best I got was when I went to Philadelphia years ago on a trip with some friends. Mm-hmm. It was a baseball. So Arizona Diamondbacks were there after they had won the World Series.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. We're standing around waiting for a cab, as were a couple of the players, and we got to see the World Series ring, and it was really
cool. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was cool.
It might have been the opening act was Brett Young, so it might have been Brett Young's tour bus. I don't know. But it was
so funny. You throw two names at me. I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's okay. Hey, you knew who Boyz II Men was. I'm proud of you.
Well, that's part of my childhood, I guess.
Yep. All right, 248-539-9797. Let's get back to the news of the day, which is, not that I stayed in the same hotel as Boyz II Men, it's all that is afoot in Detroit sports. Yes, the Pistons draft night is tonight. We've taken a bunch of feedback and tweets. We take your phone calls as well. What do you hope happens at number 5? In the meantime, Steve Yzerman is acting like a general manager that's war-chesting for something big. What is he war-chesting for? Are you okay with this? We got a Twitter poll out there. People are very curious as to what's going on with the Red Wings after trading Jake Wallman and a second-round pick. For future considerations, it frees up a roster spot for a crowded blue line, and it frees up some cap space. What's the big move that's pending there for the Red Wings? It feels like something is afoot for sure. And now a Lynn Henning tweet about Jim Bowden saying that Scott Harris is fielding phone calls now about Skubal as we move in on about a month to the trade deadline. If he is fielding phone calls about Skubal, field away. Field all the calls you can. It's a weird year where it is an amazing wild card chase in the National League, where pretty much all but 2 teams are in it at this point. Everybody in the National League's within 4 games of a playoff spot. Only the Marlins and Rockies are kind of in a concede position. The American League is a tight race, too, for the wild card spot. Not as tight, but it's a good year to be a seller. And if you're taking one of the most valuable assets, under club control, young, dominant starting pitcher, what you should be getting back is a massive haul. I would prefer that they sign him to a long-term deal. I say that without knowing what the massive haul might be. But Scott Harris is apparently listening. 248-539-9797. We'll get to more of your phone calls and feedback coming up. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket.
Look, it's not easy when you realize you got to replace your garage doors. It's a lot of money you got to put out there, and you just don't want to deal with the hassle. Well, here's what makes it less of a hassle. If you call Precision Garage Door today, they took my call immediately, scheduled an appointment right away, and they helped me select the perfect garage doors for my house, and they got it installed in no time. John, Jeff, the whole crew, easy to work with, true professionals. Here's what I love about Precision. You can schedule that appointment on their website for a time that works for your schedule. No need to call in. You can just do it online. Plus, all calls, if you're going to call in, they're answered 24/7. They offer the industry's leading warranty, and they are available on weekends at no extra charge. If you want your garage doors done right, do what I did and call Precision Garage Door today at 1-800-DOOR-REPAIR or visit precisiondoormi.com and schedule that appointment.
Doug Carr, Scott Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. The pick at 5 is no one. Trade back with Memphis or Chicago, who are rumored to want to come up for Donovan Clingan, get future assets for future years that have far better talent. Yeah, I mean, look, that future the question is a pick at like 16 better than in most years better than a pick at 5? I would argue I would argue not. But you never know, because a team that is desperate to move up has their eyes on not picking at the top of the draft. They're trying to pick mid to later portions of the draft. And if you are a team that wants to move up to get Donovan Clingan, and they're going to fail miserably, it could work for your benefit for sure. Must draft the Connecticut center, Donovan Clingan, best value at 5. Trade other assets for shooting. Think about Clingan as he's a lot like Jalen Duren. And if you want Clingan and Duren and just have a winner-take-all battle for the starting spot, what I don't envision is drafting Clingan and then trading him. You only draft him if you are fully convinced he's going to be better than Duren, and Duren becomes trade fodder. And I would think that there would be some market value for him.
I mean, I suppose that there's. I mean, if you're in talks with the team about a trade, and you know that team wants him, and they're not quite offering you everything you want, and you can certainly make an argument the Pistons would have a need for Clingan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want him, but you can make the argument.
I would more make the argument that they don't have a need for him. I mean, they need to be a better team defensively, and he's a rim protector, and he's a really good passer, but he's just not a shooter. And it sounds a lot like Duren, although I guess.
So I guess my point though is that you can make the argument that he's necessary here, and if you don't make that trade with a team that really really wants him, go ahead and if you want to roll the dice and gamble and take him because you know that team's going to come around and give you what you want. I mean, it's a gamble, but the gamble is if the worst of it is you end up with the player, and you can make the argument you want the player, then who cares?
248-539-9797. Tommy's in Troy, and he is next. Hello, Tommy.
Hey, Doug Gator.
What's up?
Hey.
Hey, yeah, I just got a quick story. In the spring of 1985, me and a couple of 3 other buddies, we went down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We didn't go to spring break, and we had graduated like 2 years before in 1983. And so we never went to anyway, we just said, well, let's go 2 years later. So we go to Fort Lauderdale, and the hotel we're staying at, we come into we go to get into the elevator, and who comes out?
You tell us.
I'm kidding you not. Kevin Dubrow and Carlos Cavazo from Quiet Riot.
There you go, singer and guitar player.
The band Quiet Riot. I recognized him right off the bat. I said, "You're Quiet Riot, right?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I said, "Wow." I didn't know what to say. I just said, "Rock on."
Nice.
That's not bad.
That's all you got to say.
Yeah.
They were staying in our hotel, Quiet Riot. So
that's the height of their popularity too, man. That's right after that album that had the 2 big hits on it. And
oh yeah, was it like what Gator was it 84? They their first album that was huge. Mental Health. Come on, Feel the Noise.
Right. Yeah.
It was like so we saw them.
Hard not to notice them back in the day then when they would have the hair that would be not only high but wide.
Mm-hmm.
Giant hair for both Kevin Dubrow and Carlos Cavazo as well.
Let's go to Justin in Madison Heights here on 97 on the Ticket. Hi, Justin.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
I wanted to ask you guys, look, I love Lucas Raymond. I like him a lot, and I don't want to trade him. But that said, since we're talking hypotheticals here, what do you think it would take to get Draisaitl? Do you think it would take Raymond and a prospect? Or I heard you guys talking too, thinking that Edmonton's more going to want Seider versus Raymond, because I don't think I want to give up Seider, but man, Draisaitl would be huge here in Detroit.
Well, you'd have to give up, I think, one of those 2 guys because Edmonton's going to want to get at least one player back. And I agree with Doug. You're probably going to have to bring a 3rd team into it because other than that, the Red Wings don't have the players that are ready made for what Edmonton want. Edmonton still wants to compete for the Stanley Cup. So if they're going to move on from Draisaitl, they're going to get players who are going to, bolster the team right now in different areas. So you got to find that other team that has another forward and another defenseman or whatever it is that Edmonton's looking for, maybe an upgrade at goaltending. I don't know, but from the Red Wings perspective, because now you're going to have to give up one of your top players, and then you're going to have to give up prospects and draft picks to that 3rd team to convince them to give up their better players right now because they're trying to rebuild, to give it to Edmonton, who's
you've got to I think the creative way to get it done is third team. You let that third team raid your system. They then turn around and send the players that Edmonton wants to Edmonton, and the Wings, for getting their system rated by the third team, get Draisaitl. But because I don't see the Red Wings wanting to give up Raymond or Seider, and that's exactly who Edmonton would ask for. But they don't want your prospects. They're trying to win now. Somebody might want your prospects that could make this happen, help facilitate the deal.
No doubt. I agree. And I love your idea with the third team. I imagine in my head that being a general manager is a lot like being a really high-end car salesman in a way, right? Where, like, if the right guy could sweet talk Edmonton, like, hey, look at Raymond's year last year. He could easily step in and produce the way Draisaitl was, maybe as soon as next year, especially with him and David, right? Like, can Yzerman sell it in a way that Edmonton's like, okay, you got me.
I don't know.
Look, they're not comparable players at this point. I like the potential of Lucas Raymond, but Leon Draisaitl just had a 121-point season. He's had 100 points in 4 of the last 5 years.
Yep. 248-539-9797. More feedback coming in on the Pistons. Trade back and take a flyer on Zach Edey, a.k.a. Yao Ming 2.0. I don't know, man.
It's not quick. Doesn't shoot outside of the
game's changed so much.
Yeah, look, I'm interested. Here's where he could be elite. He could be elite as a screen setter, which I know doesn't sound sexy.
This is what the draft is. This draft has reduced us to. But that's a solid screen.
Right.
Good outlet pass.
Right. Not sexy, but for a team that desperately needs to have one of their guys get open, having a big 7'4", 300-pound guy there is going to help you out with that. But what are we talking about?
I know this draft has us evaluating things not how
it's a great outlet
not how they finish on the break,
right?
How they start the break.
Right.
Starts the break with a great outlet pass. This player is so good, he'll get the ball to your good players.
Yeah, it's.
We want him because he's going to get the ball to our good players.
Right. Now, could you feed him all night long inside and will he get some points? I think he'd get some points, but he's no threat outside of, 10 feet.
It feels a lot like Garza 2.0.
Yeah, and what really dismayed me I was big on Zach Edey until the Final Four. And watching him have the ball stripped out of his hands time and time again, I was like, this is in college. This is happening. Can you imagine what's gonna be like in the NBA?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a disaster.
What do you want the Pistons to do with the pick at number 5? Scott writes in, put me down for the Bronny hostage strategy. At least that's fun. What's the worst thing that could happen? Miss the playoffs? The Bronny hostage situation.
So draft Bronny James in hopes that his old man wants to come and play with him in his final years, but then you'd have to give him a ridiculous contract. But hey, if the Pistons added LeBron James, does that make them a playoff team?
Yeah.
I don't know if it does.
Well, maybe not.
Didn't the Lakers miss the playoffs a couple of years ago when they had LeBron James and Anthony Davis and they still didn't make the playoffs?
You didn't say LeBron James. You did say LeBron James. You forgot to say and Bronny.
You're right. I forgot the Bronny part.
Yep. I've done a lot of research on Bronny. He just shouldn't be in this draft.
No.
He just shouldn't be in this draft.
Not at all. But apparently he had a nice workout. The combine, I guess. People are talking, he's a better shooter than we thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. How bad did you think he was?
Dalton Connect, if we're truly committed to building around Cade, then we need a perimeter shooter. Plus, Dalton is just as good at attacking the rim as he is at dropping threes. Well, I don't know about that, but I do like Dalton Connect. And I think that Dalton Connect is the kind of player that I hope they're looking at. Although, what did I read? I read this yesterday, and I saw it again today, that basically Dalton Connect's window is 4 to 9. Everybody between 4 and 9 is looking at him with the exception of Detroit, is what was written. I think there's a potential to pull a Toronto deal. What they're doing hasn't worked, so Marner to Edmonton, prospects to Toronto, Draisaitl to Detroit. Maybe. If the Tigers trade Skubal, they better get something really good. I hope they don't give away Tarek. Of course not. Yeah. It would have to be very, 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 very good. Like, I don't want to be having to dig deep into the weeds going, who's this guy? I want to know, wow, they got two. I basically want Baltimore system for Skubal. I want your system.
Give me the guys that are just, I mean, but that's the team you look at, right?
Yeah.
Because they got that Herstad and a couple other really, really top-notch prospects there.
And they're a team with World Series aspirations. The thing is, their starting pitching's been really good.
It has been, but they did lose one of them, at least one starter for the rest of the year, who was off to a great start.
248-539-9797. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Doug Harsh, Scott Anderson, 97 won the ticket. Did Torque hit 2 home runs last night? Is that right?
Hit 1 home run. His second home run of the year at Toledo.
I thought I saw it was 2, but all right. So what does that mean?
He had a couple of hits. I think he had 3 RBIs, but it was 1 home run, his second of the year. So maybe that's what you saw was the 2 parentheses.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm sorry, what else did you ask about?
I asked, what does it mean?
Nothing.
Does it mean he's
on
his way? Yeah.
Give me a couple of weeks like that and we can talk.
Yep.
But he's hitting like 250.
Yep.
So nothing special. Parker Meadows continues to hit. Dylan Dingler is going to be on the radar here. Navigato might be on a radar. I don't know. He's a shortstop possibility. You know, it comes down. Did you watch the Tigers game last night?
I did. I had it on. I mean, I'm video wallpaper now.
So it was a really interesting 7th inning for Ryan Kreidler.
Mm-hmm.
Kreidler draws a walk. Then he steals second. Steals second. Not even a throw because he's like halfway down the base before the pitcher even released the ball. And that's not an exaggeration. That's literally the pitcher paid no attention to him.
Right.
Then he stole third base.
Nice.
Really nice job. This ground ball to short. He comes home and he gets gunned down at home.
Did they have infield in or?
Yeah. Just went on contact, came home, and he was out by a decent amount. Well,
the base running's
close.
been outstanding lately.
But it was just one of the strangest things. Like, steal second, no problem. Steal third, awesome. Try coming home on a ground ball to short with the infield in on a sharply hit ball. You're screwed.
Yep.
If you're going to commit yourself, then you're screwed. And he committed himself on it.
By the way, Torque did have 2 home runs last night.
I thought it was just the one.
No, he had 2, according to the box score. So good for him. 3 for 4, 4 runs, 6 RBIs, 2 home runs.
Oh, you know what? I didn't see the final. I checked the box score while it was still going on. He must have hit a home run late.
Yeah.
My bad, Doug.
It's quite all right.
Let's give him the credit he deserves.
It's quite all right. You shouldn't announce final scores before the game's over. So
that's a fair point. I thought what I saw was a final.
It's okay. You're new.
It hurts. It still hurts.
It's all right.
No, I feel like I failed.
No, I felt like I failed. So I was like, God, I got that wrong, huh? I went and looked and I'm like, oh.
It's like stupid Doug.
Yeah, no, Doug. Sometimes it's valid. Gator, I've got 2 NBA.
Even Doug no Torque hit 2 home.
Even Gronk no not real money. So funny. You ready for NBA mock drafts?
Am I?
Final mock draft. This is from The Athletic. Which at the 5th pick, I'm not going to work our way through this because I don't think people get quite as stoked as they do about the NFL. But with the 5th pick, the Detroit Pistons make a trade, according to The Athletic. The Pistons trade with the Memphis Grizzlies. They get the pick at number 9 and a future lightly protected first-round pick. Lightly protected. So that means not a lot of protection? Like 1 through 5?
Maybe it's protect 1 through 5, but not.
They move back from 9 to 5.
What a way to make a living.
Yeah. What's that?
Sorry, it's the lyric from the song 9 to 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's okay.
Went all Dolly Parton on you. I didn't mean to.
It's okay. No, I think
never
the audience,
go full Parton.
No,
My
I
bad.
think and I think the audience also appreciates a lyric from a song that's 45 years old. But that's cool. Anyway,
that stinks.
Pistons trace back to 9, and with the 9th pick, the Pistons select Matas Bazelis. I mean, if they're going to get Bazelis and move back and get a future first anyway, that's fine. I mean,
so who goes 5th?
They trade up for Klingon.
Okay.
They want Donovan Klingon. ESPN's final mock. The Detroit
Pistons. That's it for me, only because of me personally, of what I've evaluated with this draft, and it's not much. Yep. But that is the most meh trade that I think I could come up with because I don't want Klingon, and I really don't want Bazelis either.
Right.
So you're going to trade back and get the other guy that I don't really want, but maybe it makes more sense at 7 or 9 or whatever it is than it did at 5. Yep. So that's why it gets a meh. Otherwise, it's the double arm throwing in the middle.
Well, if the Pistons, if Trajan Langdon called you, which would be one of the more concerning signs about our new GM, but if he
let's
called
explore
you,
this. Yeah. let's talk about reality here.
If he calls you and says, "I'm looking at Klingon or Bazelis," what do you say?
Punt. That's a call Brad Holmes. What would Brad Holmes do?
You know, that's not how this works.
No.
You're making a final call. We're split in the war room.
To take it 5?
Yeah, Klingon or Bazelis.
Bazelis? I don't know.
I think I'd take Bazelis and hope that Vincent, the new shooting coach, is just
a
wizard.
Please be good.
An absolute wizard. Now, I can't figure out Klingon because some people think he might go number 1.
Who is the this mock draft? Who wrote the? I know you said the Athletic, but who from the Athletic? Do you know?
Yeah, I do. It is Sam Vicente.
Okay, because John Hollinger, who's a writer for the Athletic, he ranked the top 75 prospects.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going through the list.
Yep.
And you know who who are the typical top 3 names in the mock drafts you see?
It's like Sar, Ricochet, and Reed.
And Reed Shepherd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are always the top 3.
Yep.
Here's who his prospects are ranking wise. Number 1, Ron Holland, forward from the G League Ignite. Number 2, Stefan Castle. He's a small forward from UConn. Number 3, Donovan Klingon, the center from UConn.
Well, this is different.
Number 4, Reed Shepherd, guard from Kentucky. Got it. Number 5, Alex Sarr checks in at number 5. Number 6, Nikola Topic. Number 7, Matas Bazelis.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8, Rob Dillingham. Stop me if you think anything's weird.
This is
Number 9, Kaya Filipowski from Duke. Number 10, Devin Carter from Providence. Number 11, Johnny Furphy from Kansas. What if he's in relation to Keith Furphy, the former soccer player from Detroit Express? Number 12, Isaiah Collier. And checking in at number 13, Zachary Ricochet.
Wow.
At 13, Dalton Connect is 14, by the way. Cody Williams is 15. So the names at 14 and 15, I kind of like.
Yeah. You have no idea how much I would love the players that the Pistons are looking at in the draft. I would love these guys, all of them, in the second round.
Or trade back up and late in the first round again?
Yeah. Because second round's unrealistic.
Right.
No, Reed Shepherd, I would love. Reed Shepherd's probably the only player. I mean, if Ricochet or Sarr falls to them, I can understand the upside. But I mean, we've used a term and talked about a theoretical player. It's not happening yet for them, but people think it's going to happen for them. They've got the skill set where it could happen for them. Whereas I feel like Reed Shepherd's got the skill set, has shown the skill set, has put up numbers. But like even dude from Colorado.
Cody Williams.
Yes. I mean, impressive three-point shooting percentage in a very small sample size of three-point shot taken in a game. But, you know, you have workouts for that too, right? You see, can he shoot it with somebody in his face?
I hate hearing about the workouts.
I do too.
Because I have the flashback.
What, the Darko thing?
Yeah.
Don't let that scare you.
I'm just saying, I hate the word workout because of that. I know I shouldn't let it, but how could I not?
Yep. Never make an investment because you made one that failed. There's been millions of investments.
I've been hurt before.
Yeah. All right, 248-539-9797. If you didn't hear the Tiger rumor, we will get to that today at 12:20. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1, The Ticket. Hey, congrats to all the Michigan Wolverines drafted in the NFL for 2024. The University of Michigan Credit Union is cheering you on loud and proud. UMCU is a proud partner of Michigan Athletics, and UMCU is the official credit union of the Detroit Lions. One might say they're the leaders and best in financial services. I just suited up with UMCU. You can too. It took me less than 10 minutes. No matter where you hail from, you're eligible to join, and signing up is easy. They got the coolest debit cards around, the Block M debit card, the Winged Helmet debit card. They've got a Detroit Lions debit card, so choose one and you'll have one of the cooler debit cards your friends will envy. And that allows you to call plays at millions of stores, hotels, and restaurants worldwide. Need some cash in your pocket? Hit up the thousands of surcharge-free ATMs conveniently spread across Michigan and beyond. Open your account today, umcu.org, and get in the game. And hey, while you're there, check out the resources for student, auto, and home loans. University of Michigan Credit Union proudly repping your official Block M debit card. Win with UMCU.
To be fair, I should be fair to the Athletic. Those rankings they were tier rankings. You had different tiers of players. For instance, best bets in a bad class. That's why you had Ron Holland at number 1. Tier 2 was promising teenagers. Alex Sarr was number 1 in that group. Tier 3, no frills college vets. Tier 4, talented, but I have questions. Now, this is where it's still weird because as talented, but I have questions, Zach Risache is still third among those players behind Johnny Furphy and Isaiah Collier.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it's a weird list.
Yeah, it is. And the tier thing can be confusing it's like you really have to make sure. Look, whatever. I mean, this draft has everybody doing all kinds of gymnastics about it. It feels like a weak draft. A lot of feedback coming in here this is from Twitter, and you've got 8 minutes left to vote. Interesting move by the Wings, trading Jake Wallman and a second-round pick for future considerations. Seems expensive to attach a number 2 to Wallman to create cap space, but rumors now running rampant that Stevie's about to make a big move. What would best characterize your feelings today? Your choices are excited, scared, curious, or disappointed. 633 votes so far. Curious leads the way with 61.6% of the vote. Excited next at 22.1% of the vote. Disappointed, 8.8% of the vote. Scared, 7.4% of the vote. You can go vote and comment. We read many of the comments on the air. So check it out. Ooh, we've got one response here that may include offensive content.
Oh, here we go.
Should I? I'll click show and then read it on the air. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Buckle up. Okay, here we go. It's from Zach. And he tweets, Datsuk is coming back. Magic Man has been rehabbing and getting healthy for the past 8 to 10 years. He's coming back as a Hall of Famer and getting Hall of Fame money. Is this bold ass or dumbass?
That would be dumbass.
Yes, and I can see it why it was flagged.
Yeah,
it was flagged because of the.
But for that term, yeah. Well, we haven't mentioned Pavel. Congratulations to Pavel.
It's so funny because
being part of the Hall of Fame class.
That's one of those deals where I'm like, as soon as I saw that last night, I'm like, well, yeah.
But yeah, it's his first year of eligibility. He makes the Hall along with Jeremy Roenick and Shea Weber. Why it took Roenick this long, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw on Twitter earlier, somebody tweeted out that why is it that Alexander McGillney has not made the NHL Hall of Fame? And I'm like, yeah. Why is it that Alexander McGillney has not made the Hall of Fame? I think he had like 1,200 points in his career. He had 8 30-goal seasons. He had a 70-goal season, a 50-goal season, but not in the Hall of Fame. He's got a Stanley Cup. I don't know. But Pavel, great for Pavel.
Yep.
And becomes the 10th player from that 02 team, 02 Cup team, to make the Hall of Fame. Is that good?
Yes, it is.
More than half of your roster were Hall of Famers. That's pretty good hockey team.
Feedback regarding the Pistons in the draft tonight. Dalton Knecht is the best player in this draft who fits our needs the most. His maturity and scoring ability is what this team needs. I won't be disappointed if it's Dalton Knecht. Gator, will you?
No.
Next text. I'd love the Pistons to take Cody Williams. I'll be less excited about Cody Williams, but I'll be like, hey.
Yeah, hey. At 5, might be more,
Mm-hmm.
But if they trade back and get Cody Williams, I'm fine with that.
Unnamed texter, the Pistons desperately need to address their lack of shooting this offseason. Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
The first step was getting a shooting specialist coach.
I mean, the thing about that is there's not one player from their young core that even shoots the average 3-point percentage from the arc, okay? Like, none of them are average. They're all below average, and Kate has gotten better, but they're all below average. You have to bring in shooters. You have to space the floor. If you've got guys that are billed as guys that can get to the basket and score, you've got to provide them the opportunity to do so with floor spacers. God, I hope they get Reed Shepherd. I don't think they will, but I really hope they do. Okay, so we've got Red Wing stuff, Piston stuff, and we got some Tiger stuff. The Tiger stuff that's really kind of started the wheels spinning today was a tweet from Lynn Henning. I did not hear where Jim Bowden said this, the former MLB executive, now serves in the media. Apparently, he said today the Tigers are receiving overtures about Tarek Skubal. Then Lynn Henning writes, tons of fans will shriek, but the trade package for Skubal would be of such size and necessity for the Tigers. They make the deal if it's... I just completely refreshed the page inadvertently. Halfway through reading that. They make the deal if it's there in appropriate abundance, and it very well could be. So that's Lynn's way of saying they make the deal if they just get an absolute boatload of talent back. So you ask, what is that? He says you trade exactly for that brand of player, meaning I think comparable to the best prospects. The kid on the cusp of everyday play who's all but a guaranteed all-star, as well as another blue ribbon prospect or two. That's the deal. Yep. I mean, that's how you consider it. That's how it comes under consideration. The problem is it kind of sets the timeline back, and that might be the smart move. It's just a bitter pill that nobody wants to swallow, that this group isn't close, and they've got this incredibly valuable asset that will launch them on. It'll be 2 steps back.
Well,
but it will launch them on the beginning of another rebuild.
But the way that you get back on track quicker is you can still do free agency.
Still got to spend money.
Which I think that they...
I mean, I'd like to think
I want to say that they will, but I can't say they will with any definitivity. So I had to say that they should.
Mm-hmm.
They should spend a lot. I think, one of the interesting
Prepare for
things,
incoming Chris Ilitch texts in 3, 2, 1.
I think, reading the injury report yesterday, talking about guys like Carpenter and Baez, I think one of the interesting things with Javi Baez is, all right, this feels like it's the last chance for Javi. He came to the team and said he's got a back issue. They put him on the IL. He gets an injection, starts to feel better. They send him to Florida to work on himself, and then eventually he's going to do a rehab stint. They say lengthy rehab with Lakeland and probably Toledo before he comes back to Detroit. He will not make a jump straight from, I'm healthy, to the majors. That won't happen. So how long that takes, it's really indefinite. But it tells me that this is kind of like a last chance, isn't it? We're giving you the medical attention now that you say you need. And if you're cleared by doctors, if you're feeling good, let's see what you can do. Is that really the difference? And if it is, great. Then you can be an asset again, potentially. But if not, if you're just still the same guy and your back feels good, but you're not progressing as a player, then I do think that after this season, they have to part ways. And it's still going to be a large chunk of money to devour, but it's less than it would be right now, even though effectively, isn't it the same?
I mean, you're basically saying
you're paying them not to play right now.
Without an obvious replacement, and I'm not in the Javi Baez camp. Let me make that clear. Without an obvious replacement, if you're doing that, you're saying no matter what, we are better off without you than with you, no matter what. And I don't know that they would make that decision.
I feel that they have to make that decision at the end of the year. It would be obvious to them, unless Javi comes back in the second half of the season and shows he's got the power stroke back and that he's not swinging outside the zone nearly as much. I don't expect him to be a 300 hitter by any means, but can he be a second half guy where his OPS is well beyond 750?
Mm-hmm.
Or is he going to be, he got better. It was 650. Not good enough.
As long as is in the organization, I guess all we can do is hope,
Yeah, because they don't have that ready-made guy to step up and do it. Kreidler's up right now, not really hitting. It's been a struggle for him. In fairness to Kreidler, he's been hurt the whole time in this season and then got to play like 2 weeks and then he called back up to the Tigers. They've got this guy Andrew Navigato, who has played shortstop, who's hitting a little bit, but I don't think that they view him as a potential future shortstop of this organization. You have to go to the A level to find the shortstop. And that's a long ways away from making to the big
Or
league.
you go outside the organization.
Or you make a trade and target somebody's shortstop prospect.
Since Javi went to the injured list, they have won 6 of 15 games. So at this point, the small sample size we have, they haven't just gotten better because he's not here. And that doesn't mean you don't let him go. but I'm really ready for. I really would like to see whatever's next.
Yeah, I think we're all ready for that. You know, like if they told you we're promoting McGonagall and Max Clark,
yeah,
of course it's ridiculously early to do that. But you know what? As a fan, let's see it.
Sure.
It's not reasonable, but
248-539-9797. All right, morning show, interesting exchange with AJ Hinch. And I thought, look, I didn't think it was that, disrespectful. But they basically asked him, do you think you're doing a good job in a season that is filled with frustrations? Hear that coming up today at 12:32. Leading into Tiger baseball this afternoon, here on Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Twin Peaks has made changes for the summer, and your favorite bourbons and brews has a new twist. Officially starting tonight, it's their Tequilas and Cervezas party. Wednesdays all summer long, they'll be featuring and sampling their best drafts and bottles, along with high-end and special tequilas. The Twin Peaks girls are in their hottest red lingerie, ready to help you cure those midweek blues. Samplings take place from 5 to 7, so get in early and see why it's the hottest night of the week. They'll even sample one of their excellent craft cocktails this week, featuring the amazing Double Diamond Margarita. You're really going to want to cure those midweek blues with an awesome night out at Twin Peaks. There isn't a better bar in the state to enjoy all the action. And the best part, the beautiful Twin Peaks girls, well, they will serve up that scratch food, craft cocktails, and the 29-degree draft beer you've grown to love. You can take advantage of the late night happy hour at 10 p.m. while the game is going on, or offer up great deals like the $3 value shots, the fried pickles, as well as the $5 house draft beers. Come see why Twin Peaks throws the best party in town, especially on game day. Find a location nearest you. Go to TwinPeaksRestaurant.com. Twin Peaks eats, drinks, and scenic views. All right, tons of feedback. Let's get to it. Start with Pistons feedback. Pick at number 5 from an unnamed texter. I'd love the Pistons to trade at number 5 and whomever else it is to the Nets for Cam Johnson, then bring in veterans to find out if Cade is actually who we hope he is. That's the thing. If you put veterans around Cade, he might look completely different. If there are other guys that know how to play the game at this level, so I hear you. I know every NBA team would want to trade out of this bad draft, but if we take 70 cents on the dollar, can we make that happen? That's from Tom and Flat Rock. I wouldn't take 70 cents on the dollar because I would just try and make some, go with the guy with the upside, and if it fails, it fails. This is a weird draft that I wonder if GMs actually love, because I think I think every GM is being asked, you be the smartest guy in the room. There's nobody telling you have to take this guy, you have to take that guy.
It's true.
It is as wild a first round as I can remember, and it's not because it's a good draft.
This is a real true test of the scouting department, right?
Yep. Guys, the Oakland Grizzlies completely shut down Reed Shepherd in his last game. The fact alone says he's not a top 10 pick. It shows how bad the draft is.
So you're going to judge him on one game?
Yep. In which case, I mean, if we're going to do that, the 5th pick, the Detroit Pistons select Jack Golke, guard. Oakland,
right? How do you judge somebody on one game?
There is no group here. Avila set the franchise back 5 years. Not a huge fan of Harris, but he can't spend his way out of this mess. That's from Stephen Livonia regarding the Tigers.
No, you can't spend your way out. You can certainly help to supplement the team by adding that way, but you need to build your own team. And if you're going to rely on Harris picks, well, it's going to be a while because of the heavy influence of high school kids and guys who are just not near the major league level yet. So it's going to take a few years for that. The guys they have now, this is where you're looking for the core that are here right now.
Yep.
Feel pretty confident Riley Green's a part of this core. He's a really good player.
Yep.
Beyond that, not sure. I'm encouraged by Colt Keith. I'm encouraged by Wenzel Perez. And that might be about it.
Then there's this from an unnamed texter. Let's say the Tigers don't trade Skubal. What does the organization have to sell to Skubal to keep him around here 2 years from now? Max Clark? Well,
a lot can happen in 2 years.
A lot can happen in 2 years. I mean, it did with the Lions. I suppose it's apples and oranges, but you can get better with the arrival of the right players, and that includes in your organization, and you got to spend some money. And I know, again, brace for incoming texts. About the owner in 3-2-1.
I would imagine what we're going to hear in the spring is a similar reaction for Jace Young that when they were talking about Colt Keith for this year.
Yep.
Does that mean that they give Jace Young a contract right away like they did Colt Keith? I don't know if it's that, but they might if they feel like he's definitely going to be that guy. Now he's on the IR right now, but hopefully his injury isn't anything serious and he's back by the end of the week. We'll see where he is there. But I think Jace Young is one of those guys that they're counting on to take that next step.
All right. So this morning, guys had AJ on, and Costa was, prying a little bit into what AJ feels about the job that he has done. There's been some AJ Hinch backlash that's come in, and we see it. A lot of people send it in. I shouldn't say a lot. We get some of it. So here you go. This is Jim Costa asking the manager about his culpability and where they are right now. Okay, so look, here's the thing about where we are with the Tigers. I feel like people want one of two things. And I think it's pretty easy. They want them to play better or they want them to change directions. Either just start playing better, whatever it takes, the right call-up, the right combination of players, change the way you approach it to play something. Play better or change directions. It feels like that's where the fans have gotten with what they want from this team. Maybe there's a third option in there, but I feel like and that's what happens when patience starts to run out. Get better or change directions. And AJ's pretty consistent in his message to the fans. These have been really good interviews, really insightful interviews. And I thought he handled it fine. I thought Costa was fine. I don't think it's like a go viral moment, but I do think it speaks to where we are, play better or change directions. And there's a right time to change directions. I don't know that changing directions now is the best use of the resources you have. And what I mean by that is if you could get, say, Dave Roberts to take over for AJ Hinch, or you could move on from Javi Baez somehow for, some other player, like somebody that is deemed as the problem, then great. I don't see those things being accessible right now. I mean, I guess you could eat the Baez contract, but they haven't played any better since he's been gone. And you can't get a better manager right now, most likely. Now, if you decide that you have a better chance of win with, somebody with Fedor in charge, then do it. But I don't know that that's the case. I think Fedor's pretty good in his role. I don't know. What do you make of it?
I think the question is a fair question to ask. If you asking basically, hey, evaluate yourself. Do you think you've done a good job? His response to that was, I've done my best. And people will say, well, that's all you can ask for is for somebody to do their best. But that wasn't the question. The question was, do you think you've done a good job? And he didn't really answer that. And I can understand why. It's more like a evaluation question at the end of the season. You do it at the halfway point. We're almost at the halfway point. I think it's kind of legit. And maybe that's the way that you frame it so that you get a response out of it. But it's fair and legit. I think one of the problems with giving a full answer to it is that they're not playing with a full deck right now based on what they thought they were going into the season with either. Kerry Carpenter being out is huge, right? It's massive. And then you look at other aspects of it, like they've got nothing out of Baez. They got very little out of Torkelson. They didn't get much out of Meadows. These guys are sent down, right?
Yep.
So how much of that is on them and the coaching staff? I imagine there's still part of it. It's on them. Most of it's on the players because it's up to the players to perform. And if they haven't performed, then that's a problem. And that's where they're at right now because they're just not. It's not the full team they expected.
Well, they played well last night, and Skubal, wish he could start every game. That's not the way it works. Tigers in action this afternoon against Philadelphia from down there at Comerica Park. Enjoy. That is next. Stay safe. Treat each other with respect. 97.1. This is Michigan Auto Law 30. Hey, it's Doug from Michigan Auto Law, the auto accident attorneys. See, they specialize only in auto and truck accidents. Many law firms don't specialize but focus on many different areas of the law. Michigan Auto Law has had the largest auto accident settlement. Let me start over. Michigan Auto Law 30 and 3, 2, 1. Hey, it's Doug, and let me tell you about Michigan Auto Law, the auto accident attorneys. They specialize only in auto and truck accidents. Many law firms don't specialize.